Looks like we are up and going.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
What do you think about AJ? Is he gonna continue on? I didn't see his post like comments or anything.
LA,
Yeah.
AJ. Oh, Joshua,
No, AJ.
Anthony Joshua.
Anthony. Anthony Joshua.
Dude, I don't know, man. That was I didn't even realize until later because we just saw the knockout at the end. I guess the Dubois guy had dropped him a couple times earlier, like in the first round, dropped
Mm.
him.
Mm.
Like there were multiple like knockdowns.
Signs. Yeah.
And so I was thinking when I first saw that, when I first saw the highlight that we were looking at, I thought, oh, he was dominating and then just got unlucky with the knockout. But it looked like the Dubois guy was dominating him
In
most
control.
of the fight. Man, I don't know what I did. I somehow exited on that one.
No, you're good.
But yeah, I think yeah, it was rough, man. And I think Anthony Joshua took some shellackings. Malo, Polly Prince, Malo, welcome.
Hello.
We are getting ready for another live digital Kava session, a LDKS.
Yes, sir.
So welcome everybody in. We're just chillaxing here, and then we'll get started. Actually, I need to click on Instagram to go live. Got that done. And then I need to work on Patreon as well. I always forget about our good friend Patreon. Any exciting news going on over there in New Zealand,
No,
man?
it's just a Bledsoe Cup that's going on right now. New Zealand beat Australia the last time, so I think the game is here in New Zealand. So that's going on this week. So
If New Zealand wins, it's over. If Australia wins, they go for a third, or is it already done?
I think it's only like a 2-game match. Yeah.
So what happens if it's a 1-for-1?
Then that's it. Yeah, that's how kind of rugby does their thing. It's like two. It's almost like the same thing with the Origin, right? They're gonna play 3 games no matter what.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah.
because
So
they're
if you win all
gonna go
3,
for the sweep.
yeah. So it's just 2 games. If you go for the 2-0, would be. If you don't, it's just 1-1, the draw.
Ah, interesting.
Mm.
Maria. Yeah, man. We'll talk a little bit about doing manua here, man. But these people just do not know when to like
They never give up.
surrender. Yeah, I mean, I guess I admire that, right?
Mm.
I admire that.
Right or wrong?
Right or wrong.
Yeah.
Live
How's
and
the
die
weather?
by the sword.
How's the
Dude,
weather over there?
weather's been pretty good in the 90s, so can't complain.
Mm.
So all good things.
Yeah. No, it's nice today. Pretty sunny.
All right, I think I'm just about ready for Patreon here to go live, and then we'll get going.
All right.
Hey, Mataafa's back. What's up, Uso? Oh, I guess I didn't click all the way. See, Malo Mataafa.
Hello.
Welcome to the Digital Kava session. Take a cup, stretch, relax, enjoy the sunset or the sunrise, wherever you are in the world. It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
More for the southern hemisphere countries. It's nice and dark
Yes.
in the evening up in the northern hemisphere.
Yes. All right. We are up on Patreon, so we're done there.
Nice.
So now that Patreon is done, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put this guy up here. I'm being X and Facebook down to this screen. And then I think we're ready to get rolling.
Nice.
Hey, listening while building rockets. Oh, Yahweh, Maria Matafa.
Hey,
Send us
Maria.
to Mars. Send us to Mars, man. Fry mo fakaheka to Kumala Harris. We're gonna send Kumala Harris to Mars.
Malo,
Right more malo malo taulava.
malo.
Welcome.
Five more.
Teu ke kamatay tau ki palu. Pawnees and Prince, Moni, love learning more, getting more ideas. Absolutely. Sometimes we have to discuss the same thing over and over and over. But hey, if that's what is needed, we will do what is needed. You know, it is what
Yep.
it is.
Yep. 100%.
All right. Let's get this show rolling. We'll run through our intros and then we'll get rolling.
Nice. Let's go.
Malolere Talofa and Bula, wherever you're joining in from. This is Tuafale calling in from South Central Texas, the Lone Star State, where everything is bigger. And just had some cousins visit in from Australia, New Zealand. Had to take them for a good time and remind them that things are big in America, but they're bigger in Texas. So had a great time taking them around. Mr. Atearoa, how are you? What you been up to?
Doing good. Working from home today. Just kind of finish up work. Had a little uh, bread, cheese, leftover stuff from yesterday's eating. My wife and I went out and had some kind of pizza and stuff. So had that for our little pre-dinner
Okay,
meal.
okay.
So yeah, and beautiful day here in Auckland, New Zealand. Weather is starting to get warmer and warmer, so that's good news for everyone looking forward for the warm weather after kind of waiting out the cold here in
The
New Zealand.
cold.
So,
Pretty
but
soon we're gonna switch.
overall
Pretty
good.
soon we're gonna
Yeah,
switch.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. Shoot, there was something I was gonna bring up here real quick, but let's jump into some of our notes here real quick. Had a surprising video, one of our shorts and TikTok videos, kind of surprisingly. I think we're probably gonna hit 40,000 views on this video here in the next 2 days. Uh,
Mm,
this is kind of funny thing about social media. You just don't know what's gonna hit, what's gonna stick,
what's gonna
and
trend?
yes, what's gonna trend. But apparently a lot of people were disappointed with my decision to back cousin George Smith as the greatest flanker of all time. I think I kind of knew that the All Blacks would be backing their boy Richie McCaw, and I do think he's a great. I mean, and I will concede this: he's the greatest offside guy I ever seen. Yeah. Anyways, I just had to do that. I'm not playing. I actually do think that. Um, and I don't know. Did we discuss? One of how I actually? It took me a while to try and figure out like why does everybody think Richie McCaw is so great? Like, did
Mm,
I tell you
mm.
what kind of gave me the insight to why he was actually what his greatest contribution was
Yes,
Mussy? I don't know if we talked about it.
the ability to give his all at every
Yes,
game, and the ability to play, I guess, while being injured and just kind of building the morale, pretty much
yes,
of your teammates on the side. That's probably his biggest contribution.
100%. And I can't argue with that. Definitely a great leader. But in regards to being a quote
His
unquote flanker,
Yeah.
I mean, longevity, playing hard. A lot of people are like, oh, yeah, he was targeted. They all hated him. Well, because the guy was, I mean, I don't know how many videos. Go search the videos on YouTube of, Richie McCaw offside or Richie McCaw coming from the side or Richie. Well, go look those up.
Mm.
But yeah, apparently that is the biggest thing that's going on for us on social media. I thought that was kind of hilarious. A lot of people mentioned the Iceman, Michael Jones, which we
Michael
mentioned a
Jones.
little
Yeah.
bit. I
Hmm.
would take
Hmm.
Michael Jones over Richie McCaw in regards to impact on the
Mm.
game.
Mm.
So I don't know. You had anything to add to that, Mussy?
Yeah.
I thought we just mentioned that real quick.
I want your thoughts. There's one pretty interesting comment. They said another ability of Richie McCaw, he was able to, because his longevity was a big part of his game, he knew all the kind of style of refereeing that were going to be
Yeah,
part of the games,
that's
and
fair.
that he was able to adapt his playing style to what refs would emphasize and what other refs won't emphasize, and that could have been played on the part. Maybe he can cheat a little bit on things. I don't know,
Yeah,
but what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that? But I
I,
thought that
I,
was
I
an interesting
I
comment
think I think
that I
that's a
agree with you
fair
on.
comment, but the reason why you can't use that as leverage to make him the greatest is because trust me, he could have done the same study, pushed the line, and if he was playing for Tonga, he'd be
Mm,
red, he'd be red carded immediately. So
mm,
that's one of my frustrations. Um, oh, look, Clyde Moore has a position here.
mm.
Let's bring it up here. So Clyde Moore says, "Hey, with all due respect to the great George Smith, but McCaw has is a dog, bro. Whatever you say to he has the accolades, all the Rugby World Cups, all the Super Championships. When
Super
SR
Rugby. Yeah,
was
Super Rugby.
Super Rugby. Well, that's the thing. Those are team kind of recognitions there, Clyde Moore. I don't disagree. Um, that's like people saying you can't say Dan Marino was one of the greatest because he didn't win a Super Bowl. That's fair, but quarterback is not the same thing as a open side flanker, right? Open
Mm,
side flanker doesn't have as much as influence as a quarterback on a game. Even in rugby is much more distributed, the impact. You have your fly halves that probably is the closest thing to a quarterback. But that's
yeah.
that's kind of my thoughts. Mussy and Clyde Moore is I agree he has more team accolades, but as for I'm looking more at impact on the game itself and the position. What's your thoughts, Mussy, on Clyde Moore's comment here?
Um. See, I don't really know, the nuances, but I can think of, like, there's a reason why the NBA is um still sees Michael Jordan as its superstar, even though Michael Jordan doesn't have the most championships like Bill Russell, right? But it's because
Hmm.
of all the other things that he does. He's one of the few guys to be like a MVP in the NBA at the same time, be the all defensive player selection. So I mean, and just the amount of points and impact and his brand. So there's quite a few stuff that happens. So it's not always championships, but that is a big part.
That's a big deal.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, that is a big part. But I'm just for me, who holds? Well, that's my question. Who holds the record for a flanker causing the most turnovers? Is it George?
I
Was it
would
George
probably
Smith?
say George Smith. I don't know exactly,
Mm,
but I mean, you would watch George Smith in Super Rugby and on the international stage. I think in one game he may have had 9 poaches, which is just like that's crazy.
Mm,
Like if you have
mm.
9 turnovers in rugby where
That's a
you
big deal.
caused it,
You know?
that to me changes the game, right?
Mm,
And obviously that's people started copying George Smith, which is why they changed certain rules in the ruck and in the breakdown area. So that's the reason why I say George Smith. I put more emphasis on impact on the overall game. If your emphasis is like Clydemore on championships, rugby World Cups, and all that, I would
mm.
agree. But this is where it gets really subjective. It's what you value more,
Y-
right? What you think brings more. I think maybe I'm just jaded because honestly, I can't tell you how many games I was so frustrated with Richie McCaw because I thought he was breaking the rules, and I thought the only reason why you get away with it is because you're on the the All Blacks. If you were on any other team, you wouldn't be able to get away with a lot of the things that Richie McCaw got away with. I love George Smith and understand. I think you're looking for as impact is not what's measured in rugby teams. There's things called dark arts, and if you know, 100% right. I had a coach in Tonga. I don't know if he's still alive. He's probably still young enough, but his comment he would always be, and this was at Tonga Site School. I forgot his name. No, actually, I think he might have passed away. But he
Oh,
would
okay.
all his philosophy was if the ref doesn't see it, then you're not breaking the rules. I think that was what Richie McCaw's
The dark
philosophy
arts. I
was,
think
the
that's what
dark
Clyde Moore is
arts.
saying. That's the dark arts.
That's the Fakalawakau, that's the
Yeah.
voodoo.
No,
Yeah,
that's interesting because I'm trying to say if you right, somebody's impact into another team. Like I'm just thinking if I put Michael Jordan on another team outside the Bulls, he will still have the same. I'm pretty sure.
yes.
Maybe not as much of the championship. Like maybe Scottie Pippen helped a little bit here and there, but
Oh,
he will still be able to be the same impact player of MVP, all defensive player, and still win some championship instead of
well,
what six that he has. And I'm
let's
just
put it.
thinking, is McCall gonna have that same impact if he's removed from the All Blacks and let's just say put in an English team or an
I don't
Australian
think
team?
so. I don't think so.
Mm,
And we're starting to see, and this is also another theory of mine, the commercial aspects of the game is turning so much that I mean the All Black brand was so big. That was the biggest thing in rugby union for a long time, very influential, but I think the economics of the game is diminishing that. Now the All Blacks aren't getting as many calls, like the fact that they got that red card in the World Cup.
final, yeah.
Dude, I don't know if that would have happened 10 years ago for the All Blacks. Like that, especially for not something that wasn't like 100% obvious, necessary red card,
Uh,
blatant. But here's going to be my thoughts. Oh, let's get to Klein Moore's other comment. Exactly, to it's subjective. We all have our biases, and you are wrong. If McCall was Tongan, he would still be playing for the All Blacks. Here's going to be my biggest one out there, Masi, and you tell me what you think. So, does that mean that Jonah Lomu is not the greatest rugby player of all time? He didn't win any World Cups, right?
mm,
Didn't have like the longevity that necessarily he had, and not during the quote unquote prime of Super Rugby. So does
mm.
that mean Jonah Lomu is not the greatest rugby player of all time?
Nah, nah. Jonah Lomu is everyone knows. Everyone knows Jonah Lomu is the greatest
But why?
rugby of all
Why
time
is everybody say he's the greatest?
because of his impact for sure.
Yes. See, and that's the
And
thing.
and not only that, I just know Jonah Lomu is like a Michael Jordan. That if you put him away, removed him from the All Blacks, and you say you put him like an Argentina team or Scotland, a Scottish
He
team
would
or a
have
Wales
still
team,
been.
he would have still been great. And that's what I'm saying. That's the impact you have, right? And not
Mhm.
many players, not like a Michael Jones or even or yeah, like even McCall, cannot have that same effect. Like that's when you know you are a that's the real goat definition of a goat for
Yeah,
sure.
fair point. No, I think we discussed this as well, Clyde Moore. They got to figure out these red cards. I mean, it's impacting the view. I think it's impacting the game and the viewership, especially as the level of competition gets higher and higher. A red card is a death wish on the team that gets it, because
Mm.
because the level of the game is getting so high that losing one person, it really is,
Having
you've
an
pretty much
impact.
given the game
Yeah.
over at that point. Um, no, looks like Clyde Moore agrees. Lomu is the greatest. So yeah, just thought that was interesting. This one should be a fun one. Would like to hear people's thoughts in the comments, but we'll let Mussy go first. Pac-Man or Floyd Mayweather? Who do you take? Who's better? We're not even going to talk about the greatest of all time. We're just going to say who's better and why.
Yeah, I take the position of Floyd Mayweather. One, they've actually had a head-to-head. Floyd Mayweather beat Pacquiao. That's one. Two, um, Floyd Mayweather's ability, yes, longevity, and also his style of. Granted, he didn't fight as much, and I probably agree with
Yeah,
that because
I would
one,
agree with that. He didn't fight that much.
yes, he didn't fight that much, but one, when you gotta fighting is a it's 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 one of those things. In order to be a good rugby player, there's a lot of off the fields that you need to do. So Mayweather being the business guy, and he's always said, I'm always the A side. So he's not going to be fighting as much if you're not going to bring a value that's going to give him what does he always say? What does he always say? I'm a nine-figure man, or
Mm-hmm.
a nine-figure man. Well, and in order to for him to make that nine figures for every fight, you gotta bring somebody. And if you're not in that level, he's not gonna he's not gonna waste his time. So he was very selective and business deal. And the reason why I'm a big fan of Mayweather, boxing wise, he was good. Not only that, but he actually changed the game. It's because of Floyd Mayweather. These fighters now are making good money. Is because of Floyd Mayweather, and Floyd Mayweather actually was able to. This is how you know he's a smart guy too. You can negotiate. You can be a fighter and negotiate your own contracts instead of having the middleman, a promoter all the time, um, doing your contract. So that kind of cuts a lot of the negative effects of boxing, of people kind of ripping you off. But for me personally, the brain power to do that and also box at a high level. You're because he wasn't just boxing by all the time, but he was also doing business deals and boxing at a high level and undefeated and making nine figures. One of the only few boxers to only do that. To me, you're definitely the GOAT. So and
Okay.
he's
Okay.
he's definitely had he's definitely had a head to head with Pac-Man, and he did win. So
Yeah, we'll
that's
get to
my
that. We'll get
that's
to that.
my that's my feedback on why Mayweather is the great in his fighting era, fighting time.
Oh,
And it's
okay, okay. Let's go through the comments here. People are chiming in. It looks like I'm definitely going to be in the minority, which I'm not surprised. So we have Clyde Moore. His vote is Floyd.
Yes,
Mataafa
sir.
here says Mayweather for boxing stats, but Pac-Man better human being.
For
No
sure.
doubt about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, Pac-Man, hey, Water Bears, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Pac-Man would win in a street fight. Okay, okay. This is some next level analysis going on. Uh, Clyde Moore, Floyd outboxed and outwitted his opponents.
Mm,
Okay.
mm,
Hey, welcome, welcome, Viatolo. Welcome,
mm.
Floyd. He says
Floyd.
Floyd. All right. Water Bears here. Boxing, definitely
Floyd.
Floyd.
Yeah,
All
he's the
right.
real
All
deal, man.
right. We'll hold this one after we finish the Floyd discussion, Viatolo.
Okay.
We'll also do the Jordan or LeBron. Um, so we'll get to that here in a second. And Floyd never was drunk or drug addict. What? A day and grind. Okay, okay. Stefan Malo, welcome, welcome.
Wow, wow.
Oh, finally, Stefan, we have a Pac-Man for all right. So, Stefan, I'm gonna give our case now for Pac-Man as being better than Floyd Mayweather. Number one, I'll start with the head-to-head. When I first watched the fight, I agreed, right? I agreed. However, when I found out that he had already torn his rotator cuff before the fight, okay, that means
Hmm.
Pac-Man only had one arm, okay? And so you have that. And, you know, this is where the businessman is smart. Floyd Mayweather wouldn't let him take the shot to at least numb his shoulder because you can still fight with those, right? If you take a shot and then he'll just doesn't feel the pain and then you deal with it after the fight. Floyd Mayweather wouldn't allow that. The other thing too is this, and I agree with Evander Holyfield. Evander Holyfield said he didn't think it. I had to rewatch the fight because at first I thought Floyd
Hmm.
Mayweather probably won, right? But then I wasn't necessarily watching round for round. I was just kind of watching overall. When I went back and went round for round, there were at least, I would say, 5 rounds that were toss ups, meaning there was no clear winner, right? And the rule of thumb in boxing has always been when there is no clear winner of the round, the aggressor wins the fight, the round, right? And you can say for at least those 5 rounds, there was no doubt who the aggressor was. The aggressor was Manny Pacquiao. So you can make the argument not only did he have only one arm, but even with one arm, he was the aggressor. And you could take the position that, you know,
Question.
Pac-Man could have won that. Yes.
Well, if Pac-Man was not 100% and he knows this was a big deal, he should have postponed the fight. Why didn't he make that claim to postpone the fight?
No, yeah, no. That's a fair question. The reason why he didn't do it is he wanted the money.
Okay, okay,
Okay,
yeah,
he
and
wanted the
his,
money.
yeah,
He
yeah,
wanted the
it's his
money. I mean,
choice.
this is the
Yep.
$1 billion. He made the right. He was a senator, right? When you start talking about who was doing extracurricular, I don't even think Floyd Mayweather comes close to Pac-Man. He was a senator. He is potentially going to be the president of the Philippines, right? He he has a bunch of nonprofits where he's building homes. He's doing, let me put it this way, he's doing way more stuff than Mayweather is doing, right? Let's be honest. You know what the truth is?
Outside of the boxing game, outside the
Yes.
boxing game.
Yes. Mayweather can't read. So the only thing Mayweather can do is make those decisions. I give him that. He made the decision, but that's what 50 Cent made fun of Floyd Mayweather, is because, there's those videos of him trying to do the commercial and he can't read because he was just a boxer. I mean, nothing personal. That's nothing wrong with that. The other one is everybody will say, oh, Floyd Mayweather hit more points, right? The CompuBox,
Mm.
right? And and people forget, in my opinion, boxing is about hitting without getting hit, not getting hit and running away and then taking your shots here, there, and there. That's why the aggressor gets the round. It is more difficult to be the aggressor and hit and not get hit. And what Floyd Mayweather did, and it's smart. You could say it's smart, but for me, boxing is the art of hitting without getting hit, not running to not get hit and then hitting every once in a while. And then to me, the one that will kind of seals it, and then we'll go to the comments, and then you can go your next round, Masi. 50-0 is not something that's new. There are other 50-0 fighters, and there's even what's the Mexican fighter who went, I think, 80-0 before he lost. Shoot, the one I actually thought he lost to uh Whitaker, Pernell Whitaker, but it's the
Oh, the
famous.
Mexican, what the Canelo?
No, 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 no. This is way before. This is,
Oh, way back.
and there's other heavyweights. So
Yeah.
for me, the biggest one of all is who did the rarer thing, and that is the 8 division champion. I don't think you'll ever see anyone else ever beat that. You're never gonna get a 8 division champion ever again, in my opinion. That was virtually thought to be impossible, and Pacquiao has done it. And so yeah, those are my initial
Okay.
thoughts there.
Okay.
Let's go through the comments. Since when does a king let upon dictate the terms? Hey.
like what Floyd Money Mayweather always says, I'm always the A side in every negotiation.
I don't argue that the A side, but doesn't mean you're the greatest. And for everyone who argues about the CompuBox, there's at least 2 fights that Mayweather lost the CompuBox. And because he's a good businessman, there are people coming out and saying that Floyd Mayweather paid them refs. I mean, not refs, judges that say Floyd Mayweather paid them money, which I think is a real possibility, but who
I
knows?
don't
Could be
know.
wrong.
They're trying to extort him because now that it's done and they want to get more money.
All right. He also says postpone the fight. That's a fair.
That's what I will. Yeah, because you can honestly say during that time, a close 1B was Pacquiao. So I felt like he did have some leverage, even though there's a lot of money. But if that was a big deal to kind of define, because I'm a kind of person, if there's been a if Pacquiao and Mayweather have not fought, I feel like your argument would definitely take some weight, and it's kind of hard to argue who's going to be the best in that era. But when you have a head to head, and you know that's gotta matter. That's gotta matter.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but this is the thing. Pacquiao's personality, he's not worried about being the greatest.
Mm.
Floyd Mayweather, his whole brand falls apart. Like he cannot concede anything, and like Mike Tyson said, how you know you're not the greatest? When you got to walk around with bodyguards around you. Right? Because when you're the greatest, the people love you. And he said, you know how you knew Muhammad Ali was the greatest? He was amongst the people and didn't need that. It's relatively similar. If you were to say, if you use Muhammad Ali's one, then Pacquiao is much more the greater than that. But here, hey, Pac-Man threw more punches but didn't land clean. Dude, when the guy literally turns around and runs from you, okay, all right. Hi Mele, thank you. Welcome,
Hey, I'm
welcome.
there.
Floyd can read, but only to the side. Hey, that
Hey,
is hilarious.
I don't have to read if I'm making 9-figure paycheck a fight.
That's true. I'll
I
pay
don't
somebody
need
to
to read.
read. Yes. And obviously he did
I
that,
think.
right? Because
Yeah.
he did the negotiations and he paid somebody to do everything else. Yes, that's the name. Said Hugo Chavez, but it was
Really?
Chavez. Yeah, he
Almost
went like
100
80
fights.
fights
Almost 100.
before
Oh,
he.
wow.
Yeah,
That era, that's a different kind of breed. Those eras, they were like fighting like 10 times a year. Those guys in
yeah.
those days.
No, but I mean, I would leave it at not even 10 times a year. I would say they were actually fighting. That's why I
Mhm.
don't know what Floyd Mayweather was doing. I don't think he was fighting, but the Clydemore
Mm.
Pac-Man, man, I don't know. Like maybe if I accept that he was on steroids, then you guys have to concede that Mayweather was paying the refs, the judges. if we make that exchange, I'll accept that
uh,
Pac-Man was on roids. You
uh,
guys accept that Mayweather
Floyd
was paying the judges.
Floyd beat him fair and square. My
Oh
opinion.
yes, Julio Caesar. Hugo
Mm.
Chavez is the dictator in
Venezuela, the former dictator,
Venezuela.
is
My
now
bad. Malo Clydemore. Si malo mo Clydemore getoko ni Mai. Clydemore took the deal. Masi, Clydemore took the deal. All right, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Uh,
Here's another one. Tokima Umaya injured shoulder kimui. Kanai mo ay kai bebe. Hey, you know what? I wouldn't even say Kai Vela. If you look at the faces of the two fighters after the fight, there was nothing really on Pacquiao. Floyd Mayweather had more damage. So that's something that everybody can go and take a look at. is Pacquiao looked like he could have, he threw way more punches and looked like he could have kept going for another 50 rounds.
Hmm.
Tongan style, malo, malo.
No,
So yeah, I mean, any other thoughts or anything to add to that? Any counters, Mussy or
no, no. I maintain my position as Floyd Mayweather being the greatest in his time. One, because I feel like he was very very good. Because even Mayweather, what made him so good and do so well, he was a knockout kind of person. If you see earlier in his fights, but I think he understood that if he was gonna box for a long time, instead of being a knockout, he really changed his game to really a defensive counter fighter in his later fights, and that's what made him to be the A side in every negotiation and always being able to pull in nine-figure paydays for every fight. And he was the reason why he was the golden cow pretty much that everyone wanted to fight him. So him being able to do that and fight at a high level at the same time, beat Pac-Man. That's
so
why I still
what's
maintain that.
what's the greatest thing that you think Mayweather did that is unlikely anyone will ever duplicate?
Um,
Take
Probably
your
the
time.
no, no, no. Probably his defensive skills. I don't know if there'd be another person that be able to.
Defensive skills. Yeah, turning around and running. Yeah.
Well, didn't he kind of start that new
No,
style
that
of
was his
his
dad. His dad did it, and there were
oh
guys
his
who did it
family? Yes.
before.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
They're the
yes,
ones who kind of did that Philly shell kind of thing.
yes,
Oh, Yahweh.
yes.
Clyde Moore. Floyd was a student of the game. All the greats are being loved by the people. Me akeheya. Well, that's how you know you're the greatest, is if the people love you. You're basically the greatest dependent on how many people vote for you. That's really what it comes down to. We all have our opinion, but really, I guess to say whoever's the greatest is like becoming president, whoever gets the most votes
Hmm. Well,
at
and
the end
that's
of the
why,
day.
I'm not too like Pacquiao being a two, or a one B during that era, and I still put Floyd Mayweather still number one. But if you see both of their growing ups, what motivated them to be fighters, it is they both came from really, really, uh, let's just say, really uh, poor backgrounds that kind of drove them to kind of be the greats that they are. So that's why I'm not surprised these are
Yeah.
the top two. Yeah, because they both came
So
from unfortunate situations. Both of them kind
uh,
of that
I
same.
guess I guess you could say that if your uncle was a world champion and your dad was a world champion and both professional fighters, are you really more or less fortunate than a guy who grew up in poverty, no father, no food, did not go to school, didn't do any like if you were going to go
Yeah,
for the poverty level, I think Manny Pacquiao
Philippine poverty.
succeeds at. Yeah.
Yeah, poverty level. Yes, Manny Pacquiao, but this, I think Mayweather also went through some. Even though his uncle and father were champs, I think not long after that, they both went to prison, so they were always absent. He lived with his grandmother, and they, you
No,
know,
I saw the
barely.
the
Yeah,
documentary, right?
yeah. So yes, I think if you compare Philippine poverty to American poverty, yes, it's not close, but it's still
Rough,
same
still
kind
rough.
of still
Yeah.
dysfunctional and very
Okay.
unsteady background. So that's why I'm not surprised they're one and two. But I'm just saying, I still maintain as Floyd Mayweather. If they were gonna have another fight, and this is why I'm comfortable Floyd Mayweather being still number one. Even if they had another fight, I'll still be comfortable with Floyd winning that fight again. So that's just me.
Yeah, I doubt it. I doubt it. The
Yeah.
only way he would win is number one, he would have to dictate all the terms like he did last time, even with all the advantage that he had in dictating the terms, random blood testings, blah, 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 all that stuff. And even then, I'm not convinced that he dominantly won that, in my opinion. But hey, let's close out this before we go to the next topic. Mayweather's contribution to the game was defensive skill. Yeah, somewhat. I would agree. Except some people say when you look at the statistics, even Maidana beat him in the CompuBox. And I think there was another guy who landed more punches than Mayweather in a couple fights, and yet he still won. But whenever he does that and runs away for a whole match, people say, well, that's why he won, because he landed more punches. It goes both ways. Look it up. No, I agree. Never drank, straight to the gym lifestyle. I agree. I've seen some of those videos, right, where he would go hang up, go at the club, and then he would just say, hey, I'm gonna run home, right, in
Yeah,
jeans.
yeah.
So
No, and
I agree.
I don't know if Pacquiao had the same thing, but Mayweather was one of those interesting guys that would prepare. He never had a schedule of preparing. I guess most boxers with their trainers have certain times and they go and box and certain times. He said his whole growing up, he said he never stuck to a schedule of training. So that's why he would train 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock. It always varied week to week, and that's another reason why he was able to be so great in his defensive skills and maintain at a high level at all times preparation. Because my man, that's a champion level thinking. Is like, dude, I know what I can do. I need to practice in this certain timing because I get better output in this time. I like to train just for a mental thing. He said he would train that sometimes most of his driving was to train in those hours because he just likes the thought that his opponent was sleeping while he's training his hardest at this. Like there's a lot of mental game that Mayweather has that he shared. As the dude, that's why you're great at your level. But that's just me. But
Okay, that's fair.
I just know a lot of fighters are very routine and set plan schedules with their trainers. And Mayweather wasn't that way. He did everything opposite, but he was still winning and always the
Yeah.
ace
Yeah, when you're paying the ref, you don't have to have a schedule. You just
no, no, no,
it's like Joe
no. The refs,
Biden. We
no,
don't have to go and do nothing. We already know we're gonna win. Why we
no,
just train at 2 in the morning,
no,
sleep all day. We already got this in the
no,
bag. Looks like Water Bears has gone down a rabbit hole here. NFL, NHL, NBA, WNBA, NCAA, all the A's and the L's and the S's are all tied to Vegas. Nothing genuine anymore. Money runs it all, myself included. Water Bears.
Malo, Water Bears. Ay, may
Ay,
katagi
ay,
kailahi.
ay, kataki ke lahi, malo, malo. Give Water Bears a extra mega cup for that one. He
Yeah.
seems a little stressed today.
Hey, how about I think one of our viewers asked on the Jordan and LeBron.
Oh yes.
What's your take on that and why?
Um, if you asked me this question 6 years ago, I would have been LeBron. And that is just off of statistics, right? Statistically
Mm,
speaking, the last 4 or 5 years has really changed my perspective. I mean, he's still going to outpace Jordan, statistically speaking, but I think I'm going to lean between the two of them. I'm going to lean more towards Jordan now. But
mm,
yeah.
mm.
But like I said, like 6 years ago, I would have leaned more a little bit towards LeBron. But yeah, I've kind of changed all as the last 4 to 6 years have swayed me to Jordan.
Yeah.
What are your
Nope.
thoughts?
I'm going. Michael Jordan is still the greatest and the face of the NBA. One, they're close in stats wise. I know LeBron James has passed him for all time points, but regarding going to the Michael Jordan has been undefeated in the finals. He's never lost any finals. That's a big deal. And not only that, he was all defensive player of the year. And when you're all defensive player of the year and the MVP, which is you scored the most points also in that season, LeBron James has never been an all defensive player for selection.
Mm,
So to me, that's more of an all-rounded player, with Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan being, he does have more championships than LeBron James, and not only that, he's undefeated. I think LeBron James actually has a losing record. I think he's like 2-3 or three. He has a or 3-5.
Yeah, he has
Yeah,
more losses than wins
more
in
losses,
championships.
yes, than
But
than
one could also look at it is, he made more championships. But anyway,
yeah. I guess getting there. Usually, history will remember you winning the battle instead of reaching to the battle with the thing. But that's just
mm.
me.
No,
That's
that's
just me.
true. That's true.
Yeah, and
But
to me, just the overall brand wise, I think when LeBron James is
oh, it's
done
not even
playing,
gonna be close.
people, yes, I'm talking about after 10 years, it's either people will still remember Michael Jordan because even the brand that's been associated with Michael Jordan, he's been out of the game for how many years? It's still gonna be a Michael Jordan because of his impact. So to me, though, those are the biggest reason. He was all defensive player, and of the first selection. LeBron James has never achieved that. Undefeated in the NBA Finals, and I think he probably has more of the MVP in the finals too
Hmm.
than LeBron James. So to me, that's more of a well-rounded superstar than LeBron James. So that's my stance on that.
That's fair. That's fair. Wonder what everybody else thinks. What do you guys think? I have a feeling everybody's going to be mostly Jordan. Vitolo here saying, yeah, Jordan all day. He changed the game, 100%. Um, for me, though I am Jordan, I'll just go over what's the convincing parts of against Jordan. In my opinion,
Hmm.
he doesn't have the most championships. Um, man, my brain is struggling. What's the big tall guy?
Bill Russell.
No, before Bill Russell he's the super tall, super strong.
Oh, Kabar, whatever that Lakers guy. Is it that Lakers guy?
Yeah, I think who's the one
Or
that has more? No, Chamberlain.
Chamberlain. That's right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're Clyde Moore.
And I'm a Laker fan.
Yeah, man, that must be tough, Clyde Moore, to be a Lakers fan and not like your superstar. That must
Yeah,
be painful. That must be painful, man. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Just that was the other thing that kind of swayed me away from LeBron is I just felt like overall leadership was lacking. I felt
Mm,
like Jordan was a better leader, and one could argue that Jordan's teams when he won were much better than all of LeBron's teams
mm,
because I mean when you look at it when the teams that LeBron won championships with once he left losing seasons and then you
mm,
look at when Jordan left the Bulls they still made a deep run into the
yeah,
playoffs.
yeah.
So because you said like Scottie Pippen's going to be if he's not already Hall of Fame, right?
Mm,
So
mm, mm,
interesting,
yeah.
interesting. Um let's see here. We'll give everybody a second to kind of tune in and if they don't there is a interesting video that I wanted to walk through. So the GOAT is another comment. The GOAT is Jordan, closely followed by Kobe, because he single-handedly won his last two championships with the pack of bums. But what are your thoughts, Clyde Moore, when people say that all of LeBron's championships, besides the Heat, I guess, when he was with Cleveland, those were like bum teams, according to a lot of people. But oh well. Seems like Clyde Moore is just never going to be able to get over that LeBron is the franchise
Mm.
player for the Lakers here. His
For me, I would give the number two to LeBron and then Kobe. Kobe number three, but yeah,
hmm,
LeBron. I mean, LeBron is he's. I mean, he does have. He had does definitely has his own style, and he does recognize his leverage in many of the teams. That's why they say to draft my son before I go when he does. Eh?
Hey,
So,
according to you guys, he should be the greatest because that brings
eh?
more money to his family. LeBron should be the greatest because he negotiated his son's draft. He decides everything that who gets
No,
on and
it's
off his
it's
team.
it's
He's
not
the
no
guy, the most high figure player. You guys, you know what, Clyde Moore? You guys should be
no, no, it's
all in
no
the LeBron's court.
no, it doesn't take mental stuff. He's just saying if you do this, I'm gonna do that. If you don't do this, I'll do that. It's no negotiation. It's just you do what I want, or I can just go and take my business somewhere else.
Hey, that's negotiation. That's basically what he did to Pacquiao. Hey,
Oh
look,
wait, no,
Brown
yeah.
Monk, welcome, welcome. What were you saying,
Oh
Muzzy?
no, I was gonna say that and you Pa- and Pac-Man is like the Lakers. They didn't want to pull their leverage. They just yes sir, yes sir, yes ma'am. You know, they just let the A side dictate it.
Ah, yeah. I mean, if it's just about the money, and I still think Pacquiao thought he was going to knock him out anyway. Um, right here looks like Viatolo is getting poetic for us. Jordan was the sun among the stars.
Yes,
Wee,
sir.
Marie,
Yes, sir.
Marie. Clyde Moore, tautea yamashi. Ang hafuipu fonu moni. I think this is because of your LeBron over Kobe. Mashi, take
Yeah,
your cup,
not
drink it all, drink it all.
yeah, yeah. It's just it's yeah. I would put LeBron number two, Kataki, Clyde Moore, and then Kobe after that.
Oh
Because yeah,
yeah, way.
Kataki,
Hey,
Clyde Moore.
George, welcome, welcome. He's another poetic comment here. LeBron ain't got nothing but a Diddy party. Ain't nothing but a Diddy party. Oh yeah, way. Have you guys seen the video? Have you guys seen the video where what the CEO of Johnson and Johnson did when he thought about P Diddy getting arrested?
No, no, I didn't see that.
This is hilarious.
The
Let me see
Johnson
if
and
I can.
Johnson company. That's a huge company.
Yeah. So let me just hopefully there's not too many let me see if this one will work. This is not the one that I had in mind, but I think it'll work. I think it'll work. Because you guys, did you hear Mussy that at his house they found like hundreds or thousands of bottles of like baby oil and other stuff? Did you know that, Muzzy?
No, I didn't know that, but
Oh
I'm not
yeah.
surprised.
Yeah, yeah, for his extracurricular, like George said,
Yeah,
he ain't nothing but a Diddy
Diddy
party, like
party.
George says. And so, yeah, here, watch this. I'm thinking this is going to be similar. This wasn't the one I saw, so hopefully it's along the right lines here.
But they've arrested Sean Combs, aka Diddy,
I did
and
hear,
I
yes.
don't need to remind you what this means for our bottom line.
Not good.
Diddy single-handedly represented 8% of our global baby oil consumption.
That freak was getting more oil than the Saudis.
Yes, he was, and we have to do everything in our power to assist him in this legal witch hunt, which it is. Because this is
yes,
obviously
yes,
a
yes,
case
yes, yes.
of sex addiction.
Very-
he said it
yeah,
himself.
absolutely, yes.
He couldn't stop. He wouldn't stop.
Can't stop,
So
won't
what
stop.
we
Ooh,
have to do,
sir, why don't we go back to core messaging about the health of babies and making sure that
dummy. It's lube, dumbass. It's always been lube. Get him out of here.
come on, dummy, come on, fucking baby. What? Get him.
What we need to
Go.
do is get him back to his freaky deaky high oil consumption lifestyle. So
Diddy.
at this time, I suggest that we dispatch our most powerful Semites.
You mean the lawyers, sir?
Yes, Steve, the lawyers. Jesus, this fucking Brady bunch. Listen,
No, no, because I know, and I just feel bad because I guess Justin Bieber, people are trying to tell Justin Bieber to come out and tell what was going on, and because apparently Justin Bieber was like a 15 or 14-year-old boy staying with P Diddy. Who knows? It's just shit. If I got off, I'm on you, but hey, I'm
Uh,
just making sure. Just make sure my man doesn't unexpectedly kill himself like the
oh,
Epstein because
yeah.
he knows all the people who came through his P Diddy parties. You know.
Yeah, poor shit. I feel bad for Johnson Johnson. They're gonna need a new marketing strategy.
Shit.
Yahweh. Hey, Stan, welcome, welcome. How does the tautea? Oh, it's a digital ipukava,
Mm.
Stan. So that's the tautea version here. So we can execute in real life.
We're like the what's the international court, Tua. They have they make their they say you're guilty, and
Judgment,
then
but
like
no.
yeah, but there's no no enforcement in that country. You just say, oh, okay, the international court find you guilty for this, but there's no enforcement. Eh?
Yahweh. Masi, masi, Stan. Sige, tautea, masi.
Kataki,
Si.
kataki, Stan. Di farabuna be da
Yahweh.
yeah.
Oh, Yahweh. Water Bears hasn't moved on from Jordan. Jordan three-peated twice, bro. Come on. Oh, Yahweh.
Yeah,
Oh,
Jordan,
man.
big deal. And Jordan actually stepping away from basketball, trying to do baseball because when his dad passed away, and then come back and still be an elite level. That's Jordan, man. He's the goat. He's the goat.
He's the GOAT. All right. So, what we're going to jump into now is we've gotten, just kind of respond to some of the themes on social media. Um, one of the themes that we see consistently on social media is, oh, everybody knows that Tuitonga came from the Tuimanua, right? And even
Mm.
all that, like all the oral history in Tonga says it's Tuimanua, it's blah blah blah. I'm like, Shana. Even in Samoa, they can't agree on the oral history on the Tuimanua. But we hear all this, blah blah blah, and we're gonna just walk over. This was a speech given. This is the one where Danny spoke at as well, right? Like
Yeah,
a conference. So it's a
yeah.
formal conference where this gentleman was speaking about, the history and the origins of the Tuitonga. And so, well, let's just listen to this and react to it real quick in regards to Samoa or Ha'amoa influence on the Tuitonga. So real quick, hey, looks like God
God
loves you,
loves you.
malo,
Malo,
malo.
malo.
Oh yeah, we're scrapping in school over MJ and MJ all day. Okay, yeah,
Mm.
I think everybody. I don't think we got a single LeBron. No,
Yeah, it's been an MJ. It's
yeah.
universally
At least
accepted.
with Pac-Man, I got one Pac-Man, but with the MJ LeBron, there hasn't been a
No,
single LeBron.
see, because everyone is smart that's on this Polynesian Eye podcast with Floyd Mayweather and MJ. Hey, go dumb.
100%. Shit, Clyde Moore. I think with this comment, I think you're showing you have a little too much experience. Yahweh. Water Bears. Yes, Tua. I'm stressed stuck on my side chick. Hey, Water Bears, I told you this. You need to go and meet up with Brown Monk and have the confession there, Toko. This is a digital one. It's gonna get audited. The FBI is gonna be watching, so you can't do that here. Oh, Shariva, welcome, welcome. People buy Jordans, not lip flops.
Bagay
100%.
Siriba.
That's the other thing too that really switched my mind is watching all the flopping. You can't. How can you take someone serious where nobody touches them, but they act like they got shot? Right? That really changed the way I viewed, because, like I said, like 6 years ago, I would have been willing to
Yeah.
take the, statistically speaking, how good or how bad each guy's team was, but can't argue with that, Siliva, man. When somebody flops, you can't say they're the greatest when you watch them
Yeah,
flop.
yeah. And LeBron was kind of had some really bad flops. You're like 6'9", 240, and my man would flop. So, yeah. Moni ba Siriba?
Yeah.
Wala heki holo LeBron.
Well, and then not to mention, here you are, hundreds of millions of dollars, and then you go talk about like how you're worried the police are gonna come and
Mm.
arrest you. Unless you're just hanging out with P. Diddy all the time, LeBron, you have nothing to worry about.
No,
Eh?
no, and that's well, since we're in that kind of subject, and then he's very critical, and he's a billionaire, and then when there's child labor happening in China, that the NBA has all the materials make their stuff from, and he's a very critical person in every issue, and then he says he has no comment and he doesn't have anything to say
Yeah.
regarding that.
How can
That's a flip flop. That's so
well
flip flop in the
that's
game,
a
flip flop in
yeah,
his belief. So
that's a
obvious.
flop, right? That's a moral flop, not a flop on the court. When here you are willing to criticize America, throw America under the bus when it's made you what you are. And then when literally millions of people are used as slave labor, and then the Uyghurs being
Yes.
like taken from their home in concentration camps, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden you want to do a moral flop, right?
Hmm.
And you want to be considered one of the greatest.
Yeah.
Sorry, man, can't take you seriously with that.
No, and just to go on that line with what Michael Jordan did when they were asking trying to push him to endorse Democrat politicians, and what did uh, Jordan say? Republicans buy shoes too. And see, that's the different kind of leadership.
Mm.
Jordan he just gives it straight. And he was just that's what it is. And
Yeah.
LeBron James, flip flops, man. You gotta.
Well, and
What
that's
are
the
you?
thing.
If you're gonna
He
be all
he
in on that side, just stay on that side.
yeah, pick a side, you know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we. Masi, we have some concerns from Water Bears. How dare you put Leroy James over Kobe the Great? Tiana, how dare you? Oh Yahweh.
Mm.
This is what was it Stan earlier? He said Masi doesn't get a cup digital Kava cup.
Mm.
Water Bears he gets a digital Johnson and Johnson cup.
Yeah, Kataki Warburgs.
Ay,
Ko ebe
Yahweh.
mo Clyde mo si italahi mai gao. Sorry.
Fu Kolosi. Hey, Clyde
Yeah.
Moore, they go from BLM to speaking Chinese in one day.
One.
Yes. No, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, dude, are you disconnected from reality? I don't know.
Mm. Mm.
Fair point. Fair point. So we're gonna watch this video here real quick, and with the context of what does the oral history of Tonga say Tangaloa is from, and Aho Etu's brothers and his siblings and all that other stuff. So we'll just kind of watch this real quick, and then just have you guys reach in, ask any questions, make any comment, and we'll just react to it real quick, Masi.
Okay.
Ai kamata mi ai kuno tālanga kuno whakwa. Whitu ia ne awhi wai a tui tonga o taimi koe. Ka kai e tolu te ulawe ki ai i kukua mai a tui tonga mi mawhunga. Ka kai urua ki te ulawe ki a Tangaloa e tumatu. O Tangaloa e tumatu kua e whohaia o vere lahi o tau whiwhiso.
What was the they said, in the Ha'amos they say go tau fusi fonua.
Mhm.
So, they're naming people that are Tangaloas and so forth. So there are some crossovers on the names.
Yeah.
Ne o tua ko tangata Tangaloa. Ne pere to tua ne no pere la. Tangata noa kakai noa o whampi lawe ki ai. Ne mauhoa a Tangaloa o whiwhine to noa me niwa. Ne mauhoa a Tangaloa ki a tama kūna. O tama pau ni o whiwhine ia. Hoi hoi fua, e kiringi ngila, me niwa. Minga kiringi ngila, ne ki whakapopo. Sai, ko whanau a Tangaloa o tama pau ni. Urua ki, o talawhare. O talawhare, e ulu e tu whare mo. Talawhare e na me whawhanga e tui hane e a. Hawhi tongi e nui o ki ane, o o hawhaina whakunga. Sai, whinga ua o tui lolo. Tuka ke ei, Maria Po. Hoka kia tui whora. Hoka kia manakehe. Ko te whine ko ka kai hono tolu te lawe kia i ko i la hewa pe ko kai ko pua. Ko i la hewa pe ko kai ko pua. Ko te whine niwa meda. Ko na whanau pe ko ta. Mo taka loa. Aia o mawai ko kai. Pakatau mai ka wako. Na tanu hena tama po uri mo i la hewa i whai toka ko ini. Pakatau mai. Pakatau mai en hanga ti whau.
So the thing that stuck out to me is, as you notice, the oral history doesn't say Tangaloa comes from Ha'amoa,
Mm.
right? We just say it comes from Langi, and the Tongan oral history, and specific location is that Langi or Tapuhia is on Tonga Tapu.
Mm-hmm.
So this idea that somehow it is a consensus that Tangaloa is from Ha'amoa, really to me, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And especially when you look at the timeline for the Tuimanua, I mean, we have people on TikTok this last 2-3 weeks. That's what they're holding on to. But any thoughts, any comments?
No. Just the Tongan perspective of Langi, it's an actual place, but I think they're holding on Ha'amoa being Langi because there's certain families that say that Langi resided in Samoa, but there's no mounds that indicate, right, that somebody of that um, of a Tangaloa would reside there, because the only mounds that we find, and they've been dating, and it matches with the oral history, is during the Tuitonga era, with all the mounds that's happening in Savai, and the star mounds that's in Upolu for the pigeon snaring, and also with some of the mounds, which seems to be, date wise, seems to be after Salamasina and Maria Toa, with some of the building that was happening in Manua. Some of their dating. So yeah, those are my thoughts there. But it makes sense with Tagaloa and the first Tuitonga, because that is the same area that what I've been kind of explained to, with that Vahe Loto with Maufanga and parts of Folaha. That area has been kind of like the place where it kind of started with the Tangaloa and the first three or first two of the Tuitonga era, starting that. So yeah, I don't really have any issues with what
Yeah.
that gentleman was explaining.
Yeah, I mean, really, what it comes down to, and we can kind of loop in that hikuleo and the figurines in here, Masi, as
Yes,
well,
yes,
is
that's a good point. Yeah.
the it really boils down to this. And I just watched a video of a scholar who presented in like a presentation, and they talked about Heriaki and the oral history, and then they tell a story, a oral history, and then they give their own interpretation.
Yeah.
Right? They just, and then you have to ask yourself, like, this is, we appreciate oral history, but you have to ground it in something. Even this gentleman, when talking about Aho Eitu, when talking about Ilaheva, they say, oh, she's buried here, right?
Mm.
This is where the first settlement of the Tuitonga was. All we hear from many people is, oh, they lived on this island in this general area. They don't have a specific location. It's like right
Mm.
here is the spot.
Yeah.
And what I see, like a lot of these academics do, it feels like, is they go, they listen to a couple people talking at a Kava or some oral history, and then they go come up with their own interpretation of what the oral history is trying to say. And then they come up with that and say, yep, they get enough academics, they get enough people who went to school to agree. And then all of a sudden they
It
say,
creates.
yep,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
Right. And then this
Yeah.
also comes to those figurines, like we were talking about on Hikuleo Masi, where that's
Yeah.
another comment. We've gotten a handful of comments talking about, because we say Hikuleo is a male, and yet people are like, well, what about the figurines? There's all these figurines. There's like, well, all of them. There's like 2 of them. these figurines that they say are hikuleo, and from what you've been able to kind of dig up a little bit, Masi, like
Mm.
where and how did those figurines get identified as hikuleo?
Yeah, no, and that's always kind of been my question. We kind of at the tail end of our discussion we had, well, maybe last week, with Maka, was these figurines that they've got, and definitely it shows like it's a female, and um, we've tried to find out why, who gave that name, saying that's the Hikudeo, like that's the god, because like the literal translation of Hikudeo is like what, the end of the voice, or the tail end of the voice, right? So what made them think that give that name to a figurine that they found? And it it could have, I haven't been able to find any, and some of the you know um I talked with Daniela Fare about it, and he suggested that that was just kind of just somebody just gave the name, that's Hikudeo. So it's kind of, there's no solid ground of why people kind of gave the name, this is Hikudeo, to these figurines. And it makes sense because I feel like they gave that name, and then to make it, because it looks like a female, and then they explained kind of like the origins of the Fahu system that kind of start with Tonga, when in family affairs, that your father's older sisters are respected in another level because of that. So what I've heard, that's incorrect. A lot of that is just projection and people just guessing. But these are the questions that I find is really important, especially for Polynesian history, because you got to ask the question, well, who gave that name? Because it's either that, or they don't know, they don't know the definition of what hikudeo is, which is the tail end of voice, or it's just the voice, and that's us being like the voice that kind of guided the our first ancestors from Wahi to Tongatapu. Because like what people always say, there's no way, and that's another argument. A lot of people always say like why Tonga cannot be the origin, because they sail through many islands passing, and there's a reason why, because Higureo, the voice, tail end of the voice, guided our first ancestors specifically to Tonga, and there was a reason, and
Yeah.
didn't stop and settle other islands on their way. So that's why our position has been Hikureo, is that God figure through the voice, because that's what the translation of, literally, of the word Hikureo, led our ancestors to Tonga, bypassing a lot of the islands. So yeah, so that's gonna be something that we'll keep digging up, who try to find out who gave that name and kind of gave that. It could have been something like you explained earlier, Tua. You get a couple profile Polynesians or Tongans, and then they kind of run with it, and then they say, and then we kind of talked about it. A lot of people with PhDs always get the benefit of the doubt from the mass group of people. It's kind of hard, but when you ask the right questions, and even ask questions of why they kind of came to that conclusion, then you can find out if you have some understanding of what Hikurel is. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's my explanation on that.
No, and look at what that quote unquote designation of hikuleo as female. Look at what it now all of a sudden that is the explanation for fahu,
Yeah.
right? Where now that idea, which seems to be not grounded on anything solid, now leads to not only is hikuleo a female, but that's where the fahu system comes from,
Mm.
right? And
Yeah.
and so when you do that multiple times over several different oral history, over several different things,
Yeah.
all of a sudden everybody originated from everywhere, right? Then all of a sudden Fiji is the origin, Tonga is the origin, Haamoa is the origin,
Tahiti.
Tahiti is the origin, right? And I'm sure if we go to a couple other areas, I even heard some of the Cook Island people say they didn't come from a lot of people say they didn't even come from the west, that they came from the east, which could be true, but the question then becomes, well, if you came from the east, then why is it you believe in Tangaloa and Maui when Tangaloa and Maui are much older and
Mm,
coming in from the west, from
mm,
Tongatapu, from Haamoa,
mm,
right? And in those areas. So this is the kind of stuff we're talking about that just it makes our history like chaotic, makes it very difficult to really try to understand what the reality is. So you have to go back to what oral history is tied to a ruin and is the most reliable,
mm,
and you have to go, your sources matter. And we say our position is Tongatapu was the center, that was the capital, and there are thousands of reasons why that is the case,
mm,
right? I watched another video of a they're supposed to be academics, right?
mhm,
And they're talking about Polynesian origin and so forth. And with and among themselves, they like the Hawaiian lady says, "Oh, that's your Maui. Oh, our Maui in Maui is," and I'm like, "Do you guys realize that like either all those Mauis are connected to each other, or do you
mm,
guys think like to me there was so much, it was kind of weird because the the so-called purpose of the meeting was to unify us, but
mm,
even within there they're saying, oh, it can't be the same Maui from Hawaii because that's Hawaii, right? And that's not the
yeah,
same Maui. And my question is, a lot of similar language, the language very
yes,
close, the religion very close, navigational knowledge very close. How can you say that these are not the same Maui connections, or at least tied to each other, and so forth? I don't know. I
mm,
was really confused by that. And what was shocking to me is they show the Ha'amonga, a Maui,
mm,
and no one is saying, holy smokes, that is a big deal.
yeah,
20 to 40-ton pieces of stone put up to represent a constellation in the sky. Why was it on Tongatapu? Why wasn't it in
mm,
Hawaii? Why wasn't it in Fiji? Why wasn't it in Samoa, in
mm,
Haamoa, or wherever else? Why was it on Tongatapu? That's a first question. Another one is, it's on Tongatapu, and what does it take to build something like that? Right? I think
yeah,
I think these scholars just think that like building something like that. Maybe it's because I come from the construction background.
mm,
When you see a massive like structure, your
yeah,
your my immediate question is, how would you put that together?
mm,
Right? Where
mm,
where did the rocks come from? Because how do you move something like that?
mm,
In the world I
mm,
come from, you move something like that, even if you only move it like 10 feet,
mm,
it is an operation,
yeah,
right? You have to get the right equipment, you have to get the right operators, you have to get engineers to sign off on the how it's moved because it's a high risk for danger. And just, I mean, and then to hear that the oral history says they brought it hundreds of miles away on boats,
mm,
and then you're going to tell me that is not significant evidence to say, well, maybe that was the capital. Then that doesn't include all the other ruins. We're just talking about the Hatmonga itself. What are
yeah.
your thoughts there, Masi?
No, just to add on, when you and then you add on top of that the creating new land from
Yes,
from from like the sea. So what's what they say it's 100 acres,
100 acres. That
and
is
then
still
if you
used
an
to this
acre
day.
correct, you have people living that you people created new land from the ocean. That should spark some questions like, okay, why was this done only in Tonga? You know, done in this part of the world, and it's still there, even with all the rising sea levels. That it's people, many families are still living there. So no, those are points that I don't know. Is it maybe only us and people that think like us that you would think that a educated person would ask questions of why is that, and would do some further research to kind of understand that, to kind
Yeah.
of bring up the claim that there's a significant impact that Tongatapu had in Polynesia or in the Polynesian nation. But it's a lot of that understanding is very isolated, and I think it's still that way even today. To they isolated just this is just how the Hawaiians and think, or this is how the Tahitians think, and it never expands. And then at the same time, they still talk that our ancestors sailed for hundreds of miles throughout the Pacific Ocean, but for some reason, it's been consolidated and
Yeah.
isolated.
And
To me, it
just
doesn't make sense.
it doesn't make sense. Like, just imagine this. Imagine you go sit at an airport, right?
Hmm.
And then just imagine that all the planes are not communicating with each other, that there's no structure, there's no order, there's no like governance over the airport, and say,
Mm.
oh yeah, all the captains are just coming in and out on their own. Yeah, they speak the same. There, this chaos or this order is really, it just happens on its own. Like, you just
Mm.
happen to get on a plane and take off, and you don't run into another plane, or your fuel just shows up on its own. You have the resources to fly. Like, it's like people don't sit there and think, do you know how difficult and challenging it is to travel and then to maintain that and the resources and the order? Like, if there wasn't some type of unifying structure, people would just be fighting and killing each other, which is what
Mm.
we see in Fiji and in Melanesia and in Micronesia. You just get these little feudal
Yes.
wars with each other. Why is it that there was a cohesive language, religion, navigational knowledge, technological? Why was there a movement of resources amongst these islands? You think that just happens naturally? You think
Mm.
people just like, and then they just turn around and say, oh yeah, there was never a Polynesian nation. I'm like, man, do you know how silly that sounds when you really think about it? Let's get through some of the comments
Okay.
before
Okay.
we get too far. Hey, Francois, welcome.
Well,
It is said that a lot of polys think that way. I even had a Maori upset at me for saying Maori. See, that's what I'm talking about.
uh, I
Like,
do. Yeah. Yeah. No, I was gonna say I can see that way because even here, since I've been living here in New Zealand, there is a separation of saying the Pacific Islanders and the Maoris.
yeah,
And like
Pacifica, and yeah,
Yeah, I'm like, well, New Zealand's a Pacific island. It's an island. It doesn't make sense, but no one really questions it. Everyone just kind of goes with the flow because they're under, and it's the same thing. Like you kind of mentioned the Hawaii stuff. They just say, oh, I guess for us, we'll just say yeah, the Maoris, but everyone else is Pacific Islanders. I was like, but you're Pacific Islander too. We're all one.
it
It just
doesn't
it
make
makes you
sense.
it does make you feel dumb. Just being honest, when I hear stuff like that, I was like, dude, just say Polynesians because we're all Polynesians. That's the
Yeah,
correct term. But there is that separation, and it's been used constantly here. And to me, it doesn't make sense because New Zealand is a Pacific Islander. Maoris are Pacific Islanders. Polynesians, to be correct, correct term for that. So I under what is it, Francois? How do you say? Is
hmm
it French? I do
I'm
understand
just
where he's coming.
guessing. That's his
Yes,
name. Yeah,
I do understand where he's coming from because I've even questioned that to my wife. Is like, dude, that doesn't make sense. It's like, dude, we're the same. We're Polynesians. So it's either you say just the Maoris and just say and the rest of Polynesia, that makes sense. But saying the Pacific Islanders and Maoris is like, well, Maoris are Pacific Islanders too. So there's
yeah,
we gotta have a better communication than that. And but using that language for many years can also make someone think that they're separate and not Pacific Islander or not Polynesian.
exactly,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
See, and that's the kind of thinking and mentality that I see a lot from Eastern Polynesia. Maybe because they're younger, and maybe
yeah,
because they had a lot more autonomy. It sounds like from the oral history, where the Tuitonga set up regional
mm,
um, locations for the Polo Polo and the Inasi. That's
mm,
where that comes from. You're further away from the center, therefore you're more likely to forget or get disconnected from the
Mhm.
origin. I don't know, but I mean that just doesn't make sense to me.
Mm.
Polynesian prince says that's like a Mexican telling a person from Panama that Mexicans aren't Hispanic. 100%, right? It doesn't make sense. Like, but yet, and that's what we're saying. A lot of these ideas about our history,
Mm.
you don't have to be a rocket scientist to sit down and be like you're saying, oh, everybody else is Pacific Islanders, Pacifica, but the Maoris are different. I'm like, dude, you're in the Pacific Ocean, you're
You're an island.
Polynesian, you
You're
say
an island.
Tangaloa, you talk about Maui, you talk about all these things, and yet you're gonna say you're not Polynesian? That don't make sense at
It
all.
does it. Does it? Yeah.
Stan Reed here, Tevita Fala connected the dots for me as to why there are so many different Maui, like Maui Kisikisi, Maui Fusfonua, Maui Atalangan. 100%. We are definitely proponents
Mm.
of that, because it was a title, right? And that's
Yes.
how it can last thousands of years. And the
Yes.
name, and that's the thing, the organization and stability that it requires for such a title to be maintained and
Mm.
recognized over hundreds slash thousands of years. People just think that just magically happens. Like your iPhone, you just smash rocks together and you get an iPhone. That's
Yeah.
not how things work.
Yeah. And we do have the idea too that Maui was held at one time by one person, because that makes sense. Even today, not everyone holds the Maria Toa title. There's not two Maria Toa titles. It's always one. So if
Yeah.
that's still the case today, that's the same case back in the days with the Tangaloa and the Mauis in those days. So yeah,
Yeah. And it's common practice, even in Tonga, and it sounds like in other places in Polynesia, you have your name when you're born,
correct.
but when you inherit the title, you no longer go by your birth name. You
Yes.
inherit the name of the title, and that becomes your name.
Mm.
So, yeah, Polynesian Prince, yes, Ha'amonga Maui, I think goes over a lot of people's heads. Ha'amonga Maui, Fonua Tanu, tens
Talangis.
of tens of thousands of sias, right? In
Mm.
Tonga, the many langis and the fares, which is the langis for the basically the mounds
Mm-hmm.
for the
Tui Hatarawa.
Tuihatagalaua. You look at the navigation required for the Polo Polo and the Inasi. We're talking about massive operations for labor, right? For
Mm.
construction, for travel. I just like, and people talk like, oh, yeah, there was never a Polynesian nation. We just a bunch of random people doing amazing things. And that's
Mm.
how it happened. I was like, show me where else in the world that's ever happened.
Mm.
Everywhere else in the world, it just leads to war and chaos.
Yeah.
Stan Reed here. Only reason why Maori hate the word Polynesian because they know it's a Palangi word. Well, so is New Zealand. So is, but they say I'm from New Zealand.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, anyways, yeah. So
Kiwi.
here's,
Kiwi
go ahead,
is
Mus.
Kiwi a pa- no, I was gonna say, is Kiwi a Palangi word? I don't know if that's a Palangi word.
I don't know. I don't know either.
The Kiwi word.
It could be the traditional word for it. I don't know.
Okay.
Um, Francois says, well, in that case, they should hate speaking English. That's a fair point. Like that's what
That's a
we're
fair
saying,
point.
right? You
Yeah.
have to be like, where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Because if we don't use Polynesia, then then everyone is gonna. What's the word you would use for the describe a nation, right? Tongan will probably be like a pureanga, but everyone
yeah.
will have kind of like their own. But Polynesian is just a term that's
We all
commonly
recognize. Yeah.
recognized and can understand to explain our history. That's kind of where it's at.
Yes. Maori do acknowledge they come from Polynesia. I'm from Aotearoa, Tutoko. My partner's my no. See, and that's the thing. That's what makes it kind of interesting for us, Stan. Is they say that they're from Polynesia, but then they'll say everyone else is Pacific Islander, and it's not like, oh, we're not the same. Somehow,
Yes.
some way.
Yeah.
Mataafa Kiwi's been isolated so long they don't want to be one of us.
Well, here's the funny thing, Tua. Here's the funny thing, right? When they get out of New Zealand, right, and they go to like Australia, or America or outside New Zealand, then they say they're Polynesian, right? But when they come back to New Zealand, they say, "Okay, I'm Maori," and then the rest of them are Polynesians or Pacific Islanders. I do find that funny. I'm just saying that's what I've seen happen. Once you get out of the North Island or the South Island, you go outside, then you find out, oh, I'm Polynesian.
Okay. Here's an interesting comment along those lines, Masi. He's a Polynesian princess from Hawaii. I would say, I think because New Zealand and Hawaii are hubs for a lot of Polynesians, they distinct, right? They kind of identify themselves directly. Hawaiians don't become Polynesians until it's time for the luau. Yeah,
But
way.
well, see, and this is the thing that's gonna help just us knowing our history. Hawaii, or if you're in New Zealand, you have to work with the the rest of the Polynesian diaspora. Like you gotta be more. We gotta be more one because, like you said, we can all understand that Hawaii and New Zealand are one of the relatively the younger towards the tail end of the Polynesian nation that settled those islands and kind of developed their own thing. So, it doesn't hurt to talk to more people that are Tongans, or Samoans to try to understand more kind of our history, because that's what I'm trying to say with us trying to be more than one. Because if it's more seen like we're different, then it does have that carry on effect to the younger generations thinking they're different, but we're all Polynesians at the same time.
Yeah.
That's what I'm just trying to say. It shouldn't, like, I think that's that story we kind of saw when what is it, Ulukalala, he told the Hawaiian with a gun to shoot another Tongan. And that, if we take that concept to today, there's like, dude, why would a Tongan tell a Hawaiian to kill another Tongan? Like, it to what Ulukalala saw was just we were all
We're the same
Polynesian.
people.
We're the same
Exactly.
people, and that's the mindset I'm trying to say that we need to apply here in New Zealand and in Hawaii and in Tahiti, the other places that that are under foreign rules. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like Ukalala only saw Polynesian, so
Yeah.
he didn't see it as a Tongan, and he didn't feel bad telling the Hawaiian to shoot that Tongan all the way that was kind of climbing up on top of the ship, shoot him, fell down and cracked his head open, and everyone laughed. All the
Yeah.
Tongans, actually, all the people of Ha'apai and the 9 Hawaiians that are with him all laughed. Like, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
We're all one people, and that's something that people from Hawaii and people from New Zealand, even if there's a mass migration of people from Tonga, Samoa, and stuff, we need to be one as Polynesians. That's what I'm just trying to share.
Yeah. So a couple more comments. I agree, Masi. This Polynesian Prince, I think it's just the protective nature in them, just like the Native Americans see for Alpha Mode and Alpha. No, 100%. That could be a reaction. God loves you says, okay, not all Maori say they're not Polynesian. It's mostly the new generation. The old gen always acknowledges younger brothers. No, 100%. We're not saying it's everyone, but it seems to be a large enough group that we can kind of notice it. God loves you.
Yeah.
But 100%. And especially in that term that you said, Masi, right? The Pacifica, where it's like the Pacifica is like everyone else, but then us. And I was like, and like you're saying, but hey, dude, you're in the Pacific Ocean as well, and you're on an island. And anyways.
Yeah.
But going along with some of the comments, there's an interesting video that kind of goes along with what we're talking about, like that. And it's this.
So you talking and folks just fly right by me, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try again, and I feel so.
I think because we from a small town.
Yeah.
Maybe they're from a big town.
Right.
And I think that's kind of the case because New Zealand's bigger. Maybe they think like that. But this video, your comments reminded me of this video where you have this one brother here where he's like, I don't, if you're Samoan or Tongan, I don't really care. I just want to, we're the same people. I want to have a conversation. And he was just kind of talking like how sometimes Polynesians, we like try to ignore each other. Right. And just kind of go by. And he's kind of like, oh, maybe because we're from a small town. I don't know. But they'll continue to talk about it. But I think this is something we definitely need to kind of overcome.
With us, we're like, hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up?
Yeah.
There's no running away in the small town,
No,
right?
it's too small. You
Too
know what I
small.
mean?
Everybody know where everybody
Yeah,
at.
if y'all don't agree, you gonna see them at the store,
Yeah.
or the post office, or the Mickey D's, or at school, or at church,
Or at the Taco Bell,
or at the Taco Bell.
library. Shout out to
Ain't
East Palto,
Ain't
man.
nowhere to hide, bro.
Yeah, shout out to our little town, East Palto. It's just kind of deflating.
It's awkward. Like I seen people like with like poly stuff on,
Yeah,
and I'll be excited because ooh, you know, our peoples.
yeah.
And then you be hella excited. You go, hey, what's up? And then they not. They just maybe they in the matrix. Maybe life is happening 1,000 miles an hour. They can't see what's going on.
Right. I go to a boxing gym in PA, and all the poly kids, I always like, man, what's up? Where you from? Whoop-de-whoop. And we just spark a convo. But then outside of that gym, going to other gyms, like that's not the case.
Yeah, it's just. I think it's just the climate. I think
Yeah.
now everybody is a bot. You know, I don't think we identify anymore as human. I think we all bots. You know, it's just like a big old Roblox. Like everybody.
Oh yeah, wait, look at this one. What do you think about this
That boy's eyes.
observation? Kind of sounds like it with the tone. I can't argue with that, Polly Prince.
When you say East, was it Alpata in California, you can never take that
It's
away.
legal.
It's
Oh
legal.
yeah.
You never, yeah. Mount Baybin mo niya, Polynesian Prince.
Hey, moto ka nga pe, na to fukimaya kamala gi California and throw you guys in jail.
I'll be like, "What's up, Oos? What's up, Toko?" They just be like, "All right, bro. Let's do it in the
Roblox.
Roblox." They won't talk to you in person, but probably will find you on
on
Fortnite
on the
and start
gram
talking to
or-
you in the remote. Like, but don't talk to me now. Bro.
everybody has their different perspective or different experiences. You know, we don't know what's going on.
People are socially. There's more social anxiety.
Oh yeah, wait, not the anxiety.
Like I feel like
Yeah,
like it's hard for people just to like.
open up and be like,
I
hey,
think people be afraid of their own voice.
hmm,
Like they just be like, "Oh, I don't like the way I sound when I talk." And you're like, it's good, bro. Like, get out the shit.
This is interesting. Looks like a
That is.
Poly Central podcast. Maybe you guys
Uh,
can check that out. But our conversation kind of made me think of this video, right? Like,
mm, mm.
you know, Stan Reed here had an interesting. Want to read that out real quick, Mussy?
When the Maori king had his coronation, he called for Pacific unification. Leaders from the Pacific answered that his call, and he came together, including Tupo the 6th. That was the Maori king's legacy. Yep. No, no, that was true, and that seems to be the work that is still ongoing. But I can definitely agree with Stan on that. There's been a huge amount of effort lately from the King Itanga, hopefully acknowledging, trying to understand and give the correct history to the rest of the Polynesians that are here, Maori or non-Maoris, that we are all kind of one. We're not different or in a behave differently here and there, but we are all kind of one. So hopefully the new, I know it's
The Queen, right?
the queen. Yes, hopefully she continues very young. She's only 27. Hopefully she still continues that, and yeah, and we shall see how it goes. But yeah, I'm just saying, with the correct terms, it does carry a long way if you just use Polynesians. If you want to just refer to Maoris, then say, because there is a specific name for the Maoris here in New Zealand. So,
Yeah, the
but just saying,
Polynesians in New Zealand.
yes, yeah, but saying specific islanders and then Maori, it just doesn't make sense. But I guess a lot of people don't. It's kind of like the ha'amonga. It just flies by over their head, and they don't think much think much about it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like two guys were just bored one day. And it's like, hey, let's build a hot monga. Right? Let's paddle our canoe to Uvea, cut
Mm,
it out and bring it back and dig a hole
mm,
and put it up
mm,
there. That's not
mm,
how things work. And you know, here's another video that comes to mind that I think
mhm,
is relevant as well. Um, and it's this one, and it's just kind of going along with order and organization doesn't happen naturally, and it's actually very difficult. It's a very difficult task. And let's watch this video.
Easy. It's tough.
Let's do it again.
Biggest thing is regionalism is not easy. It's tough, and you gotta keep doing it every day, and you can't lose. Sometimes it's so hard that you feel like, what's the point of doing this stuff? Sometimes you sort of sit back and you sort of say, you know, it needs to be better. But I think Pacific.
And just for context, I didn't explain it very well, but this is a guy from the Pacific Forum, right? So he's talking about trying.
Is this in Tonga or something? Because the Pacific Forum was done in Tonga recently, or is this an older video?
I think it might be an older video, but I could be wrong because this looks like it could be in like Samoa or East Polynesia. Just looking at the building in the background, I don't know of any Tongan buildings that are of that nature, and it doesn't look like coconut. It looks like some kind of other thatching up there. But he's just talking about, dude, how difficult. And this is not even to build something together or to take tribute as a group. This is just coming together and talking about issues, right? On a regional level. And he's talking about how difficult that is. We're not talking about governance of political, religious, right? Type of unification.
Yeah.
I think regionalism is very different to how textbooks understand regionalism. Pacific regionalism is about people, it's about relationships. But the problem is when people analyze regionalism externally, they think of it as, oh, they needed to achieve so-and-so. Building relationships is an achievement in itself. Having leaders come together, discuss issues, whether they agree or not, but they've built some relationship that they can take forward and use that to make agreements later on. That's an achievement in my book. So for those who are sort of coming in fresh, you just gotta, it's not one of those things you achieve overnight. It's not one of those things you achieve in a decade. It's ongoing. You just gotta keep going. And once you go, someone else should be there to pick it up and take it forward a couple other steps. That's Pacific regionalism. Biggest.
Any thoughts, Mussy?
It is her fifth personal.
Whoa. Hold on.
Thing is, regionalism is not easy.
Here's Clark for 29 points.
That sounds like the Clark
Caitlin Clark video. It's on in the background. So sorry about that. Technical difficulties.
No, all good. I was just thinking regional. I agree because it's not. You're right. It's not easy, but that's why you give props to our ancestors back in the days, because the amount of relationship building throughout not only the region but to a different island and then the entire Polynesian nation or like the Pacific Ocean. But hey, at the end of the day, you just gotta do it, and it's all about relationship. That's how pretty much Polynesians pretty much function. So yeah, nope, definitely not easy.
Well, and that's the thing, and that is difficulty just to bring people to the table to talk. Polynesian prince, what kind of comment is this? I didn't know that the WNBA was that kind of stuff.
Oku active oku vai nga basketball Caitlin Polynesian Prince. Basketball.
Yeah, his basketball must be different. And this is the kind of thing I think, like we're talking about, when you look at the ruins, right? And when you try to understand the level of organization it takes to build a ruin, and then like this gentleman is saying, is it is difficult enough just to get people to sit at the table and have a
Mm.
conversation,
Mm.
right? Like he's making the point that alone is an achievement.
Achievement.
Now imagine trying to build and maintain a nation. Now imagine building over 10,000 man-made land mounds. Now imagine all the langis that were built on Tongatap. Now imagine the 100 acres, and then to say, oh, we need to do that in Wallace and Futuna. We need to do that in Haamoa. We need to
Mm.
do that in Eastern Polynesia. We need to do that all over the place.
Yeah.
And maintain it.
Mm.
Right? Then we can understand why the oral history says the Tuitonga said, hey, it's very burdensome for people to come to Tongatapu twice a year. We need
Correct.
to not make it so burdensome because it's difficult. Right?
But still maintain structure in order for them to still pay their tributes, and that's why it became a regional thing. They had a place
Yes.
to go. Correct. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Boy. Hey, what's that supposed to the ruins? If I mofuke umu. Yeah, way. Hey, actually, I think he's referencing the video, but this is another good thing because the reason why I had that video because he saw the video umuko ni, and I'll show you guys
Okay.
why I was thinking about showing this video, and this is especially true when remember we had that comment about the Palangi wards that they want the Polynesian wards to kind of dissolve and go back to the Palangi
Integrate
wards
and
so they can
integrate with
integrate because they
yeah.
see all the Polynesian like events and all the
Mm.
community efforts and stuff. And this is also related to doing things at scale is difficult. And it takes a
Yeah.
lot of commitment. It takes a lot of sacrifice, takes a lot of resources. It takes a lot of time, right?
Mhm.
And that's the reason why I wanted to show this just to feed people, right?
Mm.
Just to feed people is
Yeah.
a major task.
Operation. Yeah.
Operation, and you have to have some kind of infrastructure, you have to have some kind of know-how and technology, and that's what was behind this one right here. Now look at that
Hey,
umo right there.
yeah. Look at that.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good setup.
Modern kind of eh?
Yeah.
See, that's a
Right?
celebration on its own. Having a
Yeah.
successful Umu.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the kind of stuff we're talking about. Like the Palangis, they just see the food and they just see the
Mm.
stuff and they think, oh, we want that.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you want the outcome, but you don't want the price to get the outcome.
Yeah.
Right? Like that right there. That's probably close to like $1,000 worth of money that brothers and sisters came together
Yeah.
to get that food and then also to build that umu because you're going to use it. That's when you build something like that, that means you're holding feasts on a regular basis, man.
Mm.
Right? When you're
Mm.
investing in that type of infrastructure. And
Mhm.
so this is the kind of stuff that we're talking about. When you think, if you can just step out and think, why were there 10,000 man-made mounds on Tongatapu? Why was there a Ha'amonga? What does that take and the scale? And then you just ask yourself, is there anywhere else in Polynesia that we see that type of ruins? Right? And what
Mm.
that means, it's like that alone should be convincing. That
Mm.
alone should be very, and that's before we get to the studies. And I think we just don't appreciate what it takes to do things. And if you understand what it takes to do anything, I think that alone is a pretty compelling argument of the role of Tongatapu and the influence and the power of the Tuitonga throughout Polynesia.
Yeah.
And where else could you have a unit if there was or is or was a unified Polynesia? Where could that be? And my position is there's only one place that you could say unified and could manage all of that. But
Mm.
any thoughts on that, Mas?
No, just with the whole operation of doing things. Um, I think it's just also the way the operation is just the young ones listen to the older ones. You do what you're told. You do this, do that, because what's the most expensive commodity is labor. You can get the materials and stuff, but the labor to cut the meat and to cook and to put get certain people to carry and ngoto umu, dig out the umu pit to come and prepare and grab the materials. All of that takes a massive operation, and that's why the culturally it is fine that the young ones do what they're told from the older people. Palangis don't think it's a big deal because the older people just do it for the kids and doing the stuff, and you can't achieve a big operation like that unless you're going to spend a good buck to have food catering and everything like that. But Polynesians, you are able to have that operation be successful because you have families and extensive relative that get some young body there. It's you tell them what to do, and it's a normal thing. But people who don't understand that concept of telling the younger ones what to do can see that as very difficult and not having a big operation. So that's why there's that misunderstanding
Yeah.
that when they want to do a function, it's a function that there's two different kind of functions you want to have. Your function is is understanding that you think it's just the older people just doing it. No, it's a massive family operation. Not even like family extensive, wider family that's doing this. So that's a different concept from people who are non-Polynesians.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And they don't understand it, right? Here's an interesting comment. I agree here with Water Bears. Thought to the LDS community, there are 2 Tongan stakes in the Bay Area and now 6 Tongan stakes in Utah. How come there aren't any more stakes in the USA? And that's a fair question. I mean, one could ask the question, does that happen by chance? What are the drivers behind that, right? If you step back, like Water Bear is asking, what's the driver behind that? The driver behind that is a level of cohesiveness in the community, right? And a level of understanding. In order to have a stake, you have to have wards. And in
Mm,
order to have wards, you have to have a certain number of Melchizedek priesthood or families, let's just say
mm,
Melchizedek priesthood holders, who are full tithe payers, which is once again the sacrifice. A ward doesn't happen magically, right?
yeah.
It has to have a unifying structure. It has to have the financial capacity to sustain itself. And one could make the argument this is a residue of thousands of years of administrating a organization on a large scale that in a way you could say it's a culture that's been developed.
Mm,
Um
mm.
oh, there's a funny one here, Masi. You'd think those 10,000 mounds would be Umu, but nope. No, that's only on Ta'u Island in Manua, Polynesian friends. Ah,
Mounds that turn into umu pits and then umu pits to ufi pit.
Ufi
Ufi
pit.
pit. Yeah.
Here's another one. Palangis one katoanga, but turn up with their potato salad with raisins.
Well, hey, Clydemore, and that's the understanding, right?
Ah,
Because the adults do everything in the Palangi side, but in the Polynesian, when they do stuff, it's the whole family because everyone's got a kofulu,
yeah,
everyone's got to put the kapapulu or the CPA stuff in. It's like a whole operation. Just doing
yeah,
lu, it can be a whole operation on its own too. So, ah, man,
yeah.
it's funny. It's funny.
And here's the interesting, with that umu, they have a massive umu like that in the Maori village tourist attraction called Mitai Village in Rotorua. But here's the funny thing, Stan agreed. But the video we just saw is someone's backyard. So you're looking at a commercial level umu in someone's backyard. That's the Texas Virgin
Yeah.
version of the giant barbecue that you put on a trailer and pull across the country. When you're
Yeah.
serious about these things.
No, and when Stan mentions tourist attraction, those umus are done. I bet you the workers are getting paid. The video we just saw, that looks like a family event that no one is getting paid for. They're doing it because the older people said to do it.
And
and your
and
pay and your pay
yeah,
is to eat the food. But usually
yeah.
those tourists attract, just like the Polynesian Cultural Center, the people who do the umu for the luau's, they all get paid. So I'm just talking about a different level when you have a function like even for church or family stuff. The only money that's happening is to get the food and materials and stuff. But labor costs, I don't think anyone's getting paid for for that for that. So because yeah, I'm just saying.
Want to read that one, Mussy?
Yes. So this is Stan Reed. Yes, only Tonga could have operated the empire the way it was organized. People nowadays don't believe it because it is too sophisticated for them to understand. I followed your dad's Ngawe 10 years ago. Hmm. What's your thoughts on that,
Yeah.
Dwan?
Well, and that's the thing is I wouldn't say that it's too sophisticated for them. They're just not willing. There's two things. There are two barriers. Number one, they're not willing to accept it for whatever reason, pride, right? Not being educated. If you're not educated on it, it's easy to overcome that. But the pride is the hard part, right? Being
Mm.
willing to say, "Hey, we're number one, it's changing the way you think." Because anyone can just sit down with a mind and say, it's like this. You look at the pyramids and say, yeah, two guys built that. No, right? You would need, everybody is amazed by the pyramids because you're like, look at the amount of manpower, the amount of organization, the wealth, the structure, the stability. I mean,
Mm.
I think if they were just willing to be humble, I think they would come to the same conclusions, but they're
Yeah.
not willing to be humble and have a desire to learn.
Yeah. Yeah, in my opinion, it's the desire to learn and the desire to see, like, right. It took a while because I think you mentioned to it when you were a young student at Tonga High, there was the idea that Polynesians didn't sail throughout the Pacific Ocean, right? It was
Mhm.
just kind of just floating there. But once you had the knowledge, our Polynesian settled many of the Polynesian islands, you know, very far away. It's not as sophisticated as us being a nation. It's just I don't know what's the barriers. It could be the barrier. Maybe people don't because maybe it's the barriers. Maybe because right now there's too many confusion. You mentioned it.
Yes, I
There's a lot
believe
of
that.
everyone. There's a confusion because everyone has an origin where the Polynesians came from, and it's hard to kind of discuss one nation if
Everybody's
Tahiti
from everywhere.
Tahiti has an origin, right? Then you have Savai'i saying that they're the origin. Then you have somebody from Hawaii saying they're like, yeah. See, that's the confusion. That's why no one's unable to kind of untangle to solve it. But yeah.
Not 100%. Aaron, Malo,
Oh,
Aaron, welcome,
there.
welcome. Kava Gray, welcome. The first child born normally raised by the grandparents to learn the old ways. So it looks like there's some comments here about how kids are being raised.
Mm.
Um, yeah, si Malo, what a bears. Tuko homo ang ako, ikaw palang Manatuyaw ka kas palang nga tuwa mo masi. Si Malo, what a bears. Si
Wow.
Te tau fetong hingoa vai ni poto.
May di poto. Oh,
Vai
may di
ni
poto
poto.
giyay.
No, that's a good thing too. Dendis
Yes.
agreed. It's family pride and it's just that feeling of satisfaction and unification of achievement, like because it's a team. It's a team effort, and it's not exciting to sacrifice for a team. It's painful
Yeah.
sometimes, right?
I think there's an evolution. I'm just thinking of my time growing up to when you're a kid, you're doing it because you're doing what you're told because you're gonna get a good discipline if you don't do what you're told. Then when you get older to understand that this is your family duty, and then it becomes more understanding. You're doing it because you do have pride within your family, and then you're representing your family in a good way. But I'm just thinking in that way.
Not 100%. There's some discussions on, Clyde Moore was asking if, because he's from the outside looking in on the LDS culture here. It's, you know, there is a large LDS population of Ha'amoa here in,
Yes.
in the US. And even crazier, there's even a much larger Miko population, millions of Mikos. And I think there may be one,
Like in
max
LA or something.
two
Mm.
Spanish steaks, if I remember
LA.
correctly. It's in the LA area, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so
Much
even when we compare it to
stronger.
the Mikos, dude, punching above our weight is an understatement at that point, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Here's another one, Masi from Mataafa. If you ever get a chance, Tokos, would be nice to see a live digital Kava session, LDKS, where you lay out your dad's timeline from Tangaloa to the current king, as well as the geological references. That might be a good one, Mataafa. Here's the challenge. Even Tevita Fale says there's not a lot of geographical and detailed oral history on Tangaloa because it's
Yeah.
so old.
Mm.
Right now, the only place that we know for sure
Tapuia.
is Tapuhia, right? There's also a settlement on the Halaliku side, Hokula, where they first landed when they got there
Mm.
from Ata, right?
Yes.
But we don't know how long
The
the
Tangaloa.
Tangaloa clan was in power, right? And that's the challenge. But I think it's a good idea. We can do that for the Tuitonga line and the settlements. De
Mm.
Vitafale has I think a nine uh a nine series article
Mm.
that covers that, but we could walk through that as well and have that conversation, talk about each
Mm.
settlement, how it was
Mm.
set up, and just walk through De Vitafale's um research on that, Matafa. But yeah, and we'll talk with we're really trying to get Daniel Fale here a little bit more to talk about some of that. He's really good on that, especially on like the genealogical knowledge.
Mm.
But that could be something we could look into, Matafa. So, oh yeah, way. Aaron is definitely pushing the Lau Lau and the Poi, representing Kamehameha very well. Aloha, aloha. Ay.
Aloha. Aloha, my kako.
Uy, Mari and Mashi, you gonna
Mm-hmm.
do hula for us or something?
Kahiko. The kahiko. The owa, 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 owa.
Yes. So I mean, yeah, I think that's interesting things to kind of discuss
Mm.
and really to just really look into that. Um and just having that conversation of let's try and be as objective as we can. We all know we have biases, but when we just look at was there a Polynesian nation? I think there's more evidence that there was one
Mm.
than not one. And then if you say there was a Polynesian nation, every nation has a capital. Where could that have been? And what location is the highest probability of being the capital and where it was managed from? I don't even think it's anything close to it, Masi. Like,
Yeah.
what would be a close second? I can't think of anywhere.
Savai or what Fortuna, and because they have a bunch of forts and stuff there. I don't know. Just wherever has the most ruins.
But it's
You
but
know.
it's like
Yes.
one or two major ones, not
Yeah.
seven
Yeah.
Tuitonga settlements where you have langis all over the place, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the Ha'amonga, that's the not only the stone one,
Yeah.
but the earth one,
Yes.
right? So there's the earth
Yes.
one on the ground. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Any other thoughts on that?
No. I mean, there's a big separation of the probability of Tongatapu being the capital of the Polynesian Empire, where we think there was a Polynesian nation, because it's a far stretch for the number two,
Yeah,
but yeah,
like it's not even close. I mean, here's a definitely an interesting one here, like Rapa Nui. That's a fair point because there's those bunch of ahus, right? And
Yep.
and the Marai, what are they called? What are they called? No, what's the big
Moyai,
heads? Moyai,
Moyai,
right? Like that's a fair point. That
yep,
is probably um the one with the most amount of ruins, right? But looking
yes,
at the
that's a good one.
age, when you
Rapa
look at
Nui,
the age, I think the last article I saw for that Kava was 12 to 1500s,
mm,
right? For that. And when you look at the Tuitonga, it goes back potentially into the BCs with Aho Etu and then
correct,
Tangaloa. So
even
in
before that.
regards, that's a good point. I think with structures, that's probably the closest, right? With
Yes,
stone structures on a single island. But
yes,
okay,
and the amount of ruins, yeah, with the structures and stuff there, yeah, for sure. Rapa Nui. Oh, that's a good reminder, Kawa.
no, 100% Stan Reed. Not only Tevita Fale said that, but the Tongan government who did all the scanning, the lidar, right? They're the ones that identified that there are tens of thousands of man-made mounds, and these are just the earth mounds, right?
Yes.
That doesn't include the langis and also just the 100 acres of man-made land on
Mm.
top of that. Here's a fair question from Tavi or Tevita Tongamashi. You want to read this one's funny?
Yes, you guys need to talk about all the Polynesian history influencers who are no longer posting.
I was
What
kind
what
of
do- what do you say about that one? What's your
see.
thought?
This is I don't want to speak too soon, right? Because we had this discussion of like let the best ideas compete, and we believe that
Correct.
some of our ideas have some knockout power.
Mm,
I have seen this trend now. We
yeah.
may have, and I don't want to speak too soon in case I don't want to be an Anthony Joshua, right? Where I think we got the opposition hurt. I don't want to jump the gun too much, but we may have single-handedly dismantled the Tu'imanua concept.
In theory, yeah.
Yeah, in theory, because it just has no validity so
Mm,
far. So far,
so far.
nobody knows everything, I confess,
Yes.
but
And if
just
somebody
just
has
so
an
far.
idea, if somebody
Yeah,
has the idea, hey, we appreciate them to kind of contact us and we can discuss it, because that's what we are here for, just to understand our history. We just kind of propose our thoughts from our
yeah.
findings. Yeah. Good
No,
question, Tavi.
malo, malo. Um, Here's an interesting question, Masi. Does anyone know about Vava'u being the place where the Maori kupe nuku nuku came
Mm.
from?
No, I don't. I don't. I've never heard or kind of asked that question. God loves you. I'm not too sure, unless you heard anything, Tua.
I don't. This is not an area that I do very good in. Besides, you
Mm,
told me there's some places in Tahiti called Vava'u Bora Bora, and I've
mm.
heard some other places, and obviously in Tonga, but that's about it. Unfortunately,
Hey, yeah. If
um,
anyone, if any of our viewers have connections to Vavao, maybe can
connect
help
that,
God you help God loves you. That'll be
answer
good.
that.
Answer that.
Looks like Clyde Moore took a shot. Not sure at God Loves Me, but my wife's people are from him, the people he left behind when he left. Where is
Mm.
she? Where's your wife from, Clyde Moore? Is she from Tahiti or something? Where is she from? Oh, Yahweh. See, I may have jumped the gun too quickly here. Polynesian Prince. Hopefully,
Rest in peace.
Tu'imanua doesn't come back like Dubois and knock out my ideas.
Get resurrected, eh?
Yahweh. Mo os ilo pe o kukai ke iai haivi hangeko ivi a please.
That's true. Tai Oshi, Tai Monia, please. He's gonna come back and comment here down the atua.
Yeah. He and his 5 different profiles. I'll never forget that, dude. You guys are absolutely hilarious. where everybody was like, the two comments back and forth with increased fleas and another couple of names, and everybody's like, hey, this is the same guy talking to himself, trying to make it sound like people are up, coming up
Our
with this conversation.
fleas thinks people are not smart. That people are smart, fleas. See,
Oh man. No, that's interesting, Tavi. I don't know much about that, but I do know that yes, there have been hundreds of thousands of man-made mounds throughout the United States that have been
Mm.
documented, that have been destroyed with farming. But the Smithsonian, whenever they find any major finding in regards to a civilization that was here in the United States, they tend to hide it. Um,
Mhm.
Here's another one, Masi, if you want to read this one
Yep.
out.
Is it Francois or Francis? Has there been discussion of Purimere Mound in Savai having any links to the Tui Manua, or was that the Tui Tonga's mound? We did do a video, Francois or Francis, about this. A lot of the local villages in Palauri, that's where the Purimere is at, have strong references to Tonga, to the Tui Tonga. Specifically, they said the Pa Tonga, which is kind of Pa Tonga can be like an area of Tongans and where they would reside. I haven't heard any references from the locals mentioning any Tui Manua. So that's kind of our findings. Unless am I missing something, Tua? Unless there's any addition.
Well, the dating that they did find on the Pulimele mound was like 1400s ish, which aligns a lot with Kaulfonua Fekai's timeline,
Mm,
right? Where he installs the Tuiha Takalaua, and just putting together some of the oral history, he kind of goes what it looks like on a military style submission
mm,
of the empire, because it's around that same time is the dating for the Wallace and
Purimere.
Futuna,
Oh,
right? One, the Pulemele mound, also some of the ones in like Tahiti
Tahiti. Yeah.
is the same, where and then Cook Islands as well. So it seems like a lot of these are tied to that similar time frame, and they're tied to the Tuitonga. And then we also did a video on the Tuimanua residents, also
Mm,
very similar to the timeline with Kaulfo
yeah.
Nuafekai, and how I think 4 or 5 of his descendants live in Haamoa
Mm,
during that time. So there's a high probability that the Pulimele mound was built for the Tuitonga while he was residing in Haamoa.
yeah.
So here we go, Masi. If you want to read this one
Yep.
again.
Polynesian prince. My bad for making you repeat, Toko. Could you tell me which Tongan king or prince married the Hawaiian princess? I believe was it who was Kafeta's father? Tua, who's that Tuitonga before?
Momo
Momo. It's Momo. He's the one that kind of dubbed with that new, famous
Nua.
phrase. Yes, "Fenape kakonua," right?
And what does that
Meaning,
phrase mean, Masi?
pretty much that when he met Nua coming from Hawaii, when she was kind of escorted by the Tuitonga, you know, escorts kind of thing from Big Island coming to Tongatapu. He found out that she was already pregnant because that usually high status people are usually not pregnant, but he still was attracted to her and still pretty much Tagay Fala and still kind of had her to be part of his household. And yeah, so that's where that saying came from, "Fena pega con Noah," meaning she was pregnant, but he still wanted her. So that's my understanding about that saying regarding
Yeah,
that.
not 100%. And I think I can't get over this. This cracks me up every time, like Clyde Moore is saying. the Palangi scholar saying that they went and looked up some of those little rock mounds around the Tuimanua's residence. Once again, when it's only oral history, those were the greatest warriors and the fans,
Most loyal.
most loyal people of the Tuimanua. They open it up and they find out not only there's no body, but it's just a umupit. Once again, just trying to say, here's another interesting question, Masi. You want to
Yep.
read that one?
Kava Gray, do us as Pacifica have similar creation stories and back that up with genealogy? What's your thoughts on that, Dua?
I've been listening to some of these. I guess I'm trying to understand that a little bit better because it's not an area that I fully understand. And we were, one of the topics we were thinking about talking on today's live and maybe our next digital Kava session. Actually, our next one is going to be a political one with Kava University.
Oh,
he's going to
yes.
join us. We'll talk about the
Lolo.
election and some politics on our next one, but maybe the following one, listen to some of that one podcast that talks about the Tongan origins stories. And the more I listen to it, Kava, and I don't know many others, maybe we should do a series where we're talking about listening to the different origin stories from the different Polynesian islands. Because I think there's two things. I think there's a difference in origin stories of people peopling the island, and then there could be a different creation story for the creation of the earth. And I think that just listening to some of these stories, people are kind of meshing them together. Like when I listen to that, like the Tongan one with the limu and the kere, it all started it was just all water, right? Then you get some water and some sediment, and then they separate, and out of that comes people. I'm wondering if has any similarities with the creation account from the Bible, where everything was water, then there's some sediment and some water separation, and then out of the earth comes the first man. So that's just some of my initial thoughts, Kava Gray, because we believe we not only shared a language, political, social, and scientific knowledge, we also shared a religious or spiritual knowledge. And so there could be a real possibility that we have oral history that talks about when the first people came to the island, and there could be just a story of the origin of the entire earth.
Yeah.
We're believers that Hikuleo is the same God as Jehovah in the Bible. We know that's a little controversial for some people, but that's kind of the position we take. And if that were to have any merit, then they would have origin stories of the earth as well as origin stories of the first people to come to that island. That's my kind of initial thought, Masi.
Yeah. No, I'm just going to add on to what you were saying. I don't, because I'm a believer of people coming from somewhere else to settle the islands, I'm more of that origin story. I'm not more of the creation of the whole Gerde and stuff. I'm not into that because that's to me, I see that as irrelevant in my opinion. It's more because I see that we came from Vaihi and the origin of how our people came to the first islands that were there. And that's what I shared, I think, earlier in our other podcast with the word motu, of what I've kind of heard of motu becoming a word from Moloki and Tutu, because that was the first people who came to the islands.
To clear it.
Moloki, clear it, you're stomping or doing your best to kind of settle, and then Tutu with fire, burning it to create a place of settlement. And then when you say Moloki Motutu, Moloki Motutu, Moloki Motutu, over time becomes Motu, and that was the word for the island.
And
So
this is go ahead, Masi.
no, so I'm saying I'm more of the proponent of the origin of our people settling the islands and how that came to be, because I feel like that's how it is. I'm not into the whole creation story of that because I feel like I don't know. I see that as irrelevant into understanding the origin of Polynesia. That's just my opinion, but
No,
but yeah, go
100%.
ahead.
Here's just a thought that came. I'm wondering if the Moloki and Tutu has
Mm.
anything to do with Maui bringing fire,
Mm. That's a good point.
right?
Yeah.
Because that is a big part of, like the establishment. Oh, Maui finds the island, they prep it, they burn it, they clear it, so that when they come back, eh, you can now
Mm.
settle it. I wonder.
Yeah.
Just a thought. Probably
Yeah.
doesn't have anything to it, but just interesting thought.
No, good thought. Mhm.
Um, let me see. Hi, here's a good one, Masi. Read this one
Okay.
out.
Waterbirds. I think there was a typo on the name Vaihi. I think it was supposed to be Vaini. Chiu Town. Oh, oh.
Hey, Maria, my
Mahalo
knee
be.
doves.
Hey, mahalo be. Wai be mo oni. If I'm not too biggie, Vaihi. So they say just I be Vaini for contemporary people right now, and then the real name is Vaihi. Oh,
Mm.
are we trying? Are
Oh,
we onto something, Waterbirds?
I'm going
Yeah.
to request that if God loves you, some of the strong regulars, Clyde Moore, our PR specialist has submitted this for approval for Masi. Do we need to give Masi any guidance before he stamps approval on this official designation of Vaihi being corrected to Vaini? Eh?
Eh.
Ay, yawe, Maria.
I like that. I like that. It's something new and different. Maria Waterbirds.
Here's another one. For us as Maori, the last to settle and the last to be discovered by others. Maybe some of us hold traditional knowledge. We believe everyone holds a certain amount of that knowledge, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's an important part. I am fascinated by some of the prophecies that some of the Maoris had, right? Of like the future, and supposedly when the white man came and when the church was coming, that there were
Mm,
some interesting prophecies of the Maoris for their future. So I'm not against that, Kava Gray.
mm, mm.
Any thoughts on that, Masi?
Maybe some of us hold the traditional. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You know, I'm sure there's quite a few people that do have some knowledge with the original settlers of you know, of New Zealand, of out there and Aotearoa, kind of places. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
It's just yeah, nothing on that. It's just when those people are gonna share those knowledge and we can start discussing them. Yeah.
Yeah. And my only recommendation, Kava Gray, is don't take the position of the Tui Manua where they said that there's no archaeological evidence because no studies were ever done in Manua. And then I find the article where there's been tons of studies done in Manua, but don't want to talk
Extensive
about
too.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
but don't want to talk about it because the Tui Manua is only 500 years old.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why. Here's an interesting comment right here in response to Water Bears. Only people in Vaini make typo errors. Ay, yeah. Hey, so the Vaini guy makes the error and then tries to change it. Eh? Maria, tama. Maria.
Hey, I like it. I like it. V
Ay,
town kia.
Yahweh. Moni Masi, but genealogy to back it up now. Who like Ariki Aliki Eki? No, 100%.
Mm,
Right?
mm,
That seems to be the correlation with that word. So
mm,
very,
mm.
very interesting.
Wow.
Let's see here. We're past 2 hours. So let's close out with this one video. Um, this one is kind of interesting. It's a little bit LDS related, but I thought it was funny and wanted to get feedback from people here. But let me see. This is a Polynesian social media content creator. Well, where did I see it? Was it TikTok? Do you remember Masi, the one, the pulpit swapping one that I was talking about?
Yes, you did mention it, but you didn't share the
The
video.
location.
Eh.
Oh, right here. I found it.
Is it?
I found it. So now that there's this discussion about a bunch of different things on social media, this one was kind of funny. I never heard of this practice. Hopefully, it's not an influence from the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives or something crazy like that. But I think this guy, kind of remember his face from Tonga. Masi, I don't know if you know him, but
Okay.
does he look familiar? I think I seen him in Tonga before, and he said he grew up there. And I think he said he's from Tatakamotonga somewhere.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know. But here's an interesting experience that he had, and we'll see what close use this as our closing reaction video.
This happening in your wards? I just moved into a new ward, and in sacrament meeting, they did something called pulpit swapping. So I guess our bishop went to a Baptist church.
I don't know about you guys, but just the name of it sounds pau to me. Like I wouldn't even allow it, even if I didn't know what it was, just because of the name. Pulpit swapping, that just sounds inappropriate. So yeah. So apparently this is a thing.
To speak at another pulpit to that congregation, and the Baptist pastor of that church came to our sacrament meeting, our pulpit, and gave a 20-minute sermon to us. There were a few things that left me scratching my head. The member that introduced the pastor in sacrament meeting, he kept saying this phrase. He kept saying that the Baptist church of this pastor is his second favorite church. And he kept repeating that phrase over and over in the introduction. Then when the pastor came up to speak, one of the lines that he opened with was, "I won't tear down in 15 minutes what you took a lifetime to build." He then proceeded to talk about how we're all children of God and we have a commandment to love God, and that we're only saved by grace and that our works don't matter. But yeah, I mean, is this happening in other wards? Is this a new thing with the church that I'm not aware of? I don't know. Let me know. Is this
Oh yeah.
Some of these, I'm surprised he didn't share his location. Where is this happening? But
He's in Utah. He's in Utah.
oh, dang, that's in Utah.
Yes.
Well, Utah is getting a bit funky every year, so I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, man.
Hey,
Um,
have you been spending too much time in Utah lately? Silky he? Growing on nakikiusai he hingo ako
Yeah.
puppet swapping. Yeah? That's why. I'm just saying. Hey, Tavi, no, this is not a Texas thing. This is not a Texas.
Maybe the Baptist pastor came from Texas, and then the
Oh,
bishop
yeah.
came from Utah. They did the swap that way. Eh?
See, there's two things that come to mind when I see this, right? First off, Utah is the next California. I've been saying that for decades. The other one is, what happened to just having a fireside?
Yeah, that's what it's for.
Right? It's like, Shana, there's nothing wrong with it. The sacrament meetings for the sacrament. Yeah, that's a little
Yeah.
different. This is not you have firesides for those things. This is what happens when you try to reinvent the wheel. When you use that term, reimagine your sacrament meeting. No, we don't need to reimagine the sacrament meeting. We just need to hold a fireside if you want to have that. There's nothing wrong with hearing other people's perspectives, but in the right place at the right time.
Yeah,
But
because
yeah,
the sacrament is focused on the Savior and remembering His atonement. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
There's a specific purpose for that,
Yes.
right? And you can have a fireside on whatever swapping or whatever shit. Mau timing mon.
Oh yeah, boy. Too
But
funny.
yeah, what are your thoughts, Mazi?
No, very interesting. I mean, like what you said, sacrament is its purpose is to partake of the sacrament, and you should be having your ward bishop, because he's supposed to be you're supposed to have a presiding member too. So I just thought that was interesting that was okay. But who knows, man, we're in funky times. You would think you would think people who, people that have the light, and you think they have the proper understanding, the priesthood, but then you find out any people can do stupid decisions no matter what capacity you are. So you just gotta be, just as a follower, of the faith, and a person that actually practice the faith and doing their best, is just, you just gotta be making sure that you're in tune and doing what you're supposed to do, so you can understand, okay, this is a bit off, what's really going on,
Yeah.
so that's just me, how I navigate today's society, because there is a lot of confusion. Then there is a lot of people who are just doing some stuff and have other perspective that you feel like, "Dang, doesn't really align with what is righteousness." But oh well, everyone is a daughter and son of God, I guess. But it's just depending who's gonna go to the spirit world faster. You can decide on that. But
Oh
but
yeah, way.
yeah,
Masi.
hey, that's my thoughts. That's my
Yeah,
thoughts.
okay. Some of the Kava session guys are blaming the Kava maybe. Mahalo korna upito Kava. That's why we're leading to these type of outcomes.
Eh,
And
eh.
Stan Reed said, "Fight tau Kava." Oh yeah, way. These are the pros. Tau
Tavua
fua
owa.
or
Owa.
tongue and style saying we're getting to the bottom of the kumete. It's just a kerevi right now, right? Here's a couple things that I'll tie it into kind of our
Mm,
culture and through Polynesian eyes, right?
mm,
This is why you sit down with a group of people that you trust and you respect, and you talk about what you think you're gonna do before you go to this bishop. He probably didn't talk to his ward council. He probably didn't
mm,
talk to anyone on the high council or the stake president to say, "Hey, you think this is a good idea for me to
mm,
give
mm,
up the sacrament meeting?" Eh?
mm,
This is why I believe this. It was the Kava process or the council through the Kava that helped Tonga maintain its independence, because it was sitting down of a group of people talking about issues, talking about ideas, and try to have the best idea come on top. So you don't come up with a swapping idea that everybody who listens to it's like, yeah, that's a bad idea. And then you go act out your bad idea, and then you wonder why things went bad. Eh?
mm,
This is also true about our oral history, about our
mm.
actual history, the ideas that are out there. We are so disconnected as a Polynesian people. We are so fragmented and disjointed that we can't come together and have conversations to kill the bad ideas so we don't embarrass ourselves
Mm,
by pushing forward bad ideas, right? That's one of the reasons why we have these digital Kava sessions. This is one of the reasons why we think it's important to have
mhm,
these conversations, because even me, I learned a lot here, right? Like I was even like, oh, maybe the Tuimanua did come from
mm,
directly from Tangaloa, right?
mm,
And maybe that's the case. I was open to that just because so many people were speaking it and saying it. They're like, oh, mahalo pa mooni, eh?
mm,
Hindi ko ya. Didn't even take very long to scratch a little bit, have more conversations with the team here, the group here on the digital Kava
mm,
session. And then we're like, oh, that idea that I had just doesn't make sense. It doesn't
mm,
fit. Right. So to me, that is the reason why it's important to have these conversations. This is why we say we need to be unified as a people. We need to discuss our history, because if we just go around and talk to people independently, our history is confusing and it doesn't make sense. And I think we not only deserve better than that, but I know we're very capable of more than that.
mm.
Um, oh, Yahweh, Nacho. Shit.
Hey, malo daw, malo daw.
Naro. 7-Eleven again? 7-Eleven again, Nacho? Come
Hey,
on.
PIP atage, watu hauipu nacho.
Um, so, yes. So, Appreciate it, guys. Really appreciate everyone stopping by. Hey, Tongan style. Maybe for the next one. Ki puke puke. I don't even know what falatau is.
Mm.
Holding a falatau to introduce Western religion. What does that mean?
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not too
Maybe
sure. I'm not too
bring
sure.
that
I'm not too
bring that up
sure.
on our next one.
Mm.
But yes, Polynesian Prince. Unfortunately, yes, it is the end. Appreciate it. Makes us feel good that people are like, oh, time went by fast. Hopefully,
Mm.
people enjoyed our digital our live digital kava session.
Yeah.
But yep, keep forgetting the chasers. Bring it early. Bring it early next time. But closing thoughts, Masi. Any closing thoughts before we call it a show?
No, just a big thank you to our viewers. It's always fun to connect and talk, and I learn for myself good questions, and we have a good discussion just from you guys putting them online and us discussing like a typical talanoa, kumete, and kava style conversation. But I appreciate everyone's input and following. Malo, thank you, Tua, for the platform. And Ofatu until the next one. Malo.
Malo, Masi, appreciate your time. Once again, I agree 100%. One of my favorite parts is interacting with the viewers. It's a lot of fun and learn a lot. Really appreciate a lot of the information that comes from the viewers that they're
Mm.
sharing in the inboxes and
Yeah.
sharing with us. This is how we make sure the best ideas are the ones that we promote. Is we have these conversations, we bring them to the table, and as always, you know, be curious. Don't be afraid to ask questions because sometimes the dumbest question is the most
Mm.
important question that needs to be asked,
Mm.
right? The one that looks super obvious and the one that you think everyone has already thought of is the one that everyone's missing.
Correct.
And it's better that you kill my bad idea before I go act it out and look silly for our digital kalapo here. And then everybody was like, shit, fuck off ammonia tua. When I come back, I'm gonna blame all you guys. Why did you kill my bad idea before I go and do something stupid? But with that being said, be bold, stay curious, and ask the tough questions. Till next time, guys. Malo Ovatu, and have a good
Ofatu.
one. Tautoksio on the next one.
See ya.
See ya. Assuming I can find the